Chapter 773. The excuse that Tang Zheng had prepared did not come in handy. The old man was very reasonable and casually agreed. In fact, as long as it was Tang Zheng's decision, the old man would generally not oppose it. He knew that he could not drag his grandson down. Since his grandson did this, then there must be a reason. He would just do as he was told. Seeing that the old man was so reasonable, Tang Zheng was moved and thought of something else. The Empyrean fairy had once said that the life-prolonging pill only had one effect in a person's life, which meant that his grandfather still had 9 years of life left. Tang Zheng was gloomy. He decided that the next time they met, he would definitely teach his grandfather the cultivation method. Although it was a bit late for him, it would still improve his physique and have the effect of prolonging his life. Then he contacted Yi Yuan, the witch clan elder, and Wu Junshan respectively, explaining the seriousness of the situation in detail. He ordered the three of them to meet up and move everyone to the island, as well as guard against any possible dangers. They also felt the seriousness of their attitude, and their tones were heavy. After explaining all this, Tang Zheng called Lu Qingmei. Lu Qingmei's voice had a trace of experience. In the past, she was an ice beauty, but after meeting Tang Zheng, her ice mountain melted. Even the way she treated people and things in her life became a lot gentler, not as cold as before. However, after leaving school and entering the workplace, her personality had changed quite a bit. When she received a call from Tang Zheng, she was pleasantly surprised. Although the two of them were close, they did not talk on the phone like a normal young couple in love. Even the few women around Tang Zheng were not like this. They all understood that Tang Zheng had too many things to do, so it was impossible for him to take out so much time to talk about love with them like a normal boy. This bit of understanding and tolerance was precious. When Tang Zheng occasionally thought about it, he could not help but feel a warm current flowing through his heart. After receiving a call from Tang Zheng, Lu Qingmei was very happy. "Sister Mei, what are you busy with?" "I just finished talking to my client." "Why are you so obedient and calling me?" Lu Qingmei said gently. "I missed you." Tang Zheng said sincerely. These were indeed words from the bottom of her heart. She had not seen Lu Qingmei for quite some time, so she really missed her teacher. Fortunately, he was making the call in his bedroom. Otherwise, if the women outside heard it, who knew what kind of bloody case it would cause? Lu Qing was silent for a while before she said emotionally, "I miss you too." "Sister Mei, are you done with your work?" "Almost." "What's wrong? Come back quickly. Do you really miss me so much that you can't wait to see me?" Lu Qingmei asked mischievously. "Yes." Tang Zheng didn't tell her the real reason because he didn't want to scare her. "All right, I'll fly back tomorrow. You have to pick me up at the airport." "I will definitely be there." In the evening, Mu Hongyan came back from work. This time, the room full of beauties became even more lively. Even Fang Shishir couldn't help but look at him a few more times, making him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. Mu Hongyan and Fang Shishir were old acquaintances. After meeting, they were very close. After dinner, Mu Hongyan looked at the room full of girls. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, she was going to take Nana back to her home. Nana insisted on staying. Coupled with Fang Shishir's persuasion, she also stayed. A room full of beauties, only Tang Zheng was a man. It was really like entering a country of women. There were all kinds of beauties, a feast for the eyes. Tang Zheng didn't have much mood to appreciate the beauty. He went to the study with Mu Hongyan to talk about Europe. When she heard that he was going to expand the company's business to Europe, Mu Hongyan was shocked. "Aren't you selling a bit too much? Although we are already famous in China, isn't it too early to go to Europe?" Mu Hongyan evaluated with her own professional vision. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, "I have already talked to several European royal families. They will give us green light and give us the greatest help. You don't have to worry. The European market will be easier to develop than the domestic market. Moreover, this is to prepare for taking over the Rockefeller family's business in the future. This step must be taken." This time, Mu Hongyan was really shocked. Of course, she knew about the Rockefeller family. It was because she knew that she was so shocked when she heard the news. It was the world's top behemoth. Tang Zheng actually said that he wanted to take over the Rockefeller family. Mu Hongyan felt that the world was too crazy. Although Tang Zheng was very good and often created miracles, Mu Hongyan still felt that what he said was impossible. I have already talked to several European royal families. When the time comes, they will help us deal with this matter. You can rest assured, so I want you to send someone you can trust to Europe. I'll go. Mu Hongyan volunteered herself without hesitation. Tang Zheng quickly rejected. He kept some of the people who were important to him by his side. How could he let her go? There is no why. Tang Zheng did not tell her about the return of the devil race, so as to save her trouble. Mu Hongyan was not a person who was easy to persuade, especially in business. She was a complete strong woman. I have to go. This matter is too sensitive and too important. I must go to do it well. Others may mess it up. Tang Zheng still wanted to argue, but Mu Hongyan had already decided. It's settled. I'll go to Europe tomorrow. During this time, I'll have to trouble you to help me take care of Nana. Seeing her so insistent, Tang Zheng thought about it again. After the return of the devil race, they would definitely not go to Europe. Instead, they would mess around in Huaxia. Then there would be no threat in Europe. Therefore, if she went to Europe, she would leave the center of the storm and be safer. Well, take care of yourself. Tang Zheng promised, but did not forget to remind her. In the dead of night, Tang Zheng was lying alone in bed. Although there were many beautiful women living in this house, there were only two who really had an intimate relationship with him. However, he did not dare to sneak into bed like he did in the palace. The walls had ears. If he was discovered by someone, it would be embarrassing. Moreover, favoritism would hurt people's hearts. As the saying goes, 1 monk has water to drink, 2 monks have water to drink, and 3 monks have no water to drink. Tang Zheng's situation was similar. If there was only one woman, he could hold her in his arms with a clear conscience. But there were 2 women, so he could only lie in bed alone. The next day, Mu Hongyan went to the company early, arranged the work, and then flew directly to Europe. Tang Zheng also came to the airport alone. When he saw Lu Qingmei coming out of the airport, he quickly greeted her and gave her a big hug. In public, Lu Qingmei failed to live up to expectations and blushed. Ever since she was young, she had never let go of anything so easily. But his embrace was so warm, kind and comfortable that she couldn't extricate herself and didn't want to separate. After a long time, the two finally separated. Looking at the familiar face close at hand, Tang Zheng smiled and said, "Sister Mei, you've become more beautiful." "So you mean I was ugly before?" "Of course not. You used to be very beautiful, but now you're even more beautiful. You're just making me happy. I've been so busy during this time. I feel old. You've really become more beautiful and your skin is better." Tang Zheng said seriously. Lu Qingmei's eyes bloomed with joy. Her colleagues often praised her like this. She occasionally noticed this when she looked in the mirror. Her skin was indeed smoother and more delicate than before, and even her physique had become more outstanding. In fact, this was all thanks to her cultivation. After the toxins in her body were removed, her skin was moisturized by the true qi. Naturally, it was ruddy and lustrous, as delicate as jade. "Well, you're a sweet talker. I'll reward you later." "What reward?" Tang Zheng smiled evilly. Lu Qingmei pinched him fiercely and said, "What nonsense are you thinking in your head? You're asking for a beating." "Well, don't hit me. So many people are watching you murder your husband in public. It's not good for your reputation." Tang Zheng said mischievously, "Who's my husband? I think you're getting more and more improper." Lu Qingmei took his hand and sat in the car with him. They went straight to Lu Qingmei's house. "I'm going to take a shower and then we'll go eat together." Lu Qingmei put down her luggage and went into the bathroom, leaving Tang Zheng sitting alone. Listening to the sound of water coming from the bathroom, his mood had already drifted in. But Lu Qingmei deliberately locked the door, so he couldn't break in even if he wanted to. "Sister Mei, do you want me to scrub your back?" Tang Zheng asked. "No, everyone knows Sima Zhao's heart. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking." Tang Zheng said with a bitter face, "My heart is very pure. It's a pleasure to help others. Teacher Lu, didn't you teach me this in the past?" You're not allowed to call me Teacher Lu. Lu Qingmei said coquettishly. Every time she heard Tang Jing call her Teacher Lu, she would feel flustered. Tang Jing didn't listen. He had already tested her several times. Every time he called her Teacher Lu, she would become agitated and sensitive. This was her Achilles' heel. So, he turned a deaf ear and mischievously called out, Teacher Lu, let's take a shower together. This way we can save water. Bang! The bathroom door was suddenly pushed open. Lu Qingmei, wrapped in a bath towel, rushed out with a red face and angrily said, Didn't I tell you not to call me Teacher Lu? See how I'll deal with you. She directly pounced on Tang Zheng and began to punch and kick him. Tang Zheng pretended to be pitiful and shouted, A teacher is hitting a student. I want to protest. Your protest is invalid. The one I'm hitting is you. Disobedient, bad student. The two wrestled into a ball, gasping for breath. Not long after, Lu Qingmei's bath towel was torn off, revealing her naked body. Tang Zheng's clothes also became extremely messy. Tang Zheng tightly hugged her, his hands moving up and down her body. She didn't have the strength to resist and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. However, she was very happy in her heart. Her eyes were watery, like melted ice. Go to the bed. Lu Qingmei couldn't help but hook her arms around his neck. Right here, on the living room sofa. We haven't tried it yet, Tang Jing said with a mischievous smile. Chapter 774. After a hearty battle, the two hugged each other. Lu Qingmei was lying in his arms. Tang Zheng's fingers touched a strand of her hair and twirled it around his fingertips. The fresh fragrance of her hair lingered at the tip of his nose. Sister Mei, I'll give you 2 magic weapons. Magic weapons? Really? Lu Qingmei propped up her upper body in surprise. Her snow-white chest swayed in front of Tang Zheng's eyes, making his mouth dry and his tongue restless. Lu Qingmei winked playfully. You want to be naughty again? If you don't seduce me, I won't. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Lu Qingmei deliberately licked her lips. At the beginning, Tang Jing still had the initiative, but later on, Lu Qingmei took the initiative. After all, Lu Qingmei was not a young girl like Fang Shishir. She was a few years older than Tang Jing and more mature. Moreover, she had been separated from Tang Jing for so long. Once her emotions were aroused, she was very fierce. The battle just now was very fierce, and Tang Zheng was almost defeated. Let's talk about business first. I'll deal with you after I rest for a while. Tang Zheng coughed awkwardly. With a thought, the dragon-trapped rope and the sumaru bag appeared in his palm. What are these? Lu Qingmei's attention was immediately attracted by these 2 magic weapons. This is the dragon-trapped rope. It can be used to attack and defend. It's very useful for self-defense. This is the sumaru bag. Don't you women have a lot of things? With this, you don't have to take a suitcase when you go out in the future. Wow, so magical. Although Lu Qingmei was also a cultivator, it was the first time she had come into contact with magic weapons. Of course, I have removed my connection with them. After dripping blood to bind them, they will be yours. These 2 magic weapons were almost useless to Tang Zheng. Moreover, among the few women around him, only Lu Qingmei didn't have a magic weapon. Of course, Tang Zheng couldn't favor one and discriminate against the other. Thus, he gave her his Dharma treasure. Lu Qingmei excitedly dripped a drop of blood to bind it to her, and then familiarized herself with the use of the magic weapon. She played with it so much that she even ignored Tang Zheng's request for a battle, which made Tang Zheng not know whether to laugh or cry. Sister Mei, there's another reason why I called you back to the capital. Recently, the world is not peaceful. For your safety, you'd better not leave the capital and move to my place. In any case, he already had a house full of women, so he didn't mind adding one more. If she wanted to kill him or torture him, it was all up to her. Move to your place? Lu Qingmei stopped playing with the magic weapon and looked at him suspiciously. Yes, this is for your safety. Who else do you have there? A woman's sixth sense was truly terrifying. She immediately asked. Tang Zheng said resentfully, there are still a few people. Women? Cough, cough. Tang Zheng dryly coughed. Not only women, there are also children. There are Shirshir, Wu, and Nana that you know. There are also Fu Yao and that you don't know. Fong Shirshir. Lu Qing immediately frowned, and her whole body became uncomfortable. I am her teacher. If you let me go to your place, how will I face her? Actually, you're not that different in age. You can be friends. Tang Jing shamelessly advised. I'm not going. Lu Qingmei immediately frowned. What kind of identity do I have to live with you? Moreover, I have to face Fong Shirshir. It's so embarrassing. But I'm worried about your safety. Tang Jing earnestly persuaded. If I say I'm not going, then I'm not going. I can take care of myself. Moreover, this is the capital. What kind of danger can there be? Moreover, aren't you also in the capital? If there's danger, you can come and save me. Tang Jing scratched his head. He really couldn't think of a way to persuade her. But for the sake of safety, how could he be at ease to let her live here alone? Thus, he steeled his heart and said, even if you don't want to go, you have to go. I'm not going. Let's see what you can do to me. I'll kidnap you. You can try. I'll try. Tang Jing immediately hugged her. She hurriedly struggled. Not long after, the two were once again wrestling. This time, they fought from the living room to the bedroom. In the end, Tang Jing displayed his might and obtained victory. Lu Qingmei was unreasonably kidnapped by him. Sitting in the car, Lu Qingmei was restless. Her face was as red as an apple. She didn't know what kind of deadlock she would face. When she saw the room full of beautiful women, she really had a dazzling feeling. Even as a woman, she couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. If any other man were to come here, he would probably have a nosebleed. Lu Qingmei fiercely glared at Tang Jing from the corner of her eyes. It was as if she was silently asking him when he established such a big country of women. Fong Shirshir was very surprised to see Lu Qingmei. The two hadn't seen each other since graduation. Tang Jing still didn't dare to openly say that Lu Qingmei was his woman. He only said that it wasn't too peaceful recently, so he asked teacher Lu to stay here for a while. Fong Shirshir was very happy. She was alone and wasn't familiar with the others. She was bored to death. With Lu Qingmei, she just happened to have one more companion. Only Wu looked deeply at Lu Qingmei, but didn't say anything. She had been by Tang Jing's side for a long time. She was clearer than anyone about the women by his side. She was sure that the relationship between Tang Jing and Lu Qingmei was definitely not as simple as a student and teacher. On the other hand, it was Princess Annie who was carefree as she casually said, Tang Jing, you really made me drop my glasses. Where did you go to kidnap this great beauty? Didn't I say it before? She is my teacher. Tang Jing said without changing his expression, and curled her lips. She didn't believe him and said, your lies are only for Shirshir. Tang Jing was incomparably embarrassed. Could it be that his ability to lie was so bad? Seeing that she was about to ask more questions, Tang Jing's phone rang, allowing him to escape a calamity. The phone call was from Su Yingtian. He wanted him to see him immediately because there was something important. Tang Jing greeted the girls and hurriedly left. There were too many women in this group, so it was better to temporarily avoid them. Moreover, there was Empyrean Fairy at home, so he was very relieved. Tang Jing once again came to the heavily guarded courtyard house. Su Yingtian brought him through the layers of checkpoints. Tang Jing could clearly feel that this time, whether it was in the open or in the dark, the defense was even stronger. It seemed that the authorities were also quite afraid of the return of the demon clan. Su Yingtian's face was gloomy the entire time. He warned in a low voice, listen more and speak less later. Don't speak carelessly. It will only cause trouble. Tang Jing had already guessed a bit and asked, is it about the return of the demon clan? Su Yingtian didn't hide anything. I've already reported this matter to the chief. The chief attaches great importance to this matter, so he called for this high-level secret meeting. Many heads will be participating. The implications are huge, so don't speak casually. Then why did you call me here? You are a cultivator and know everything about the demon clan. Moreover, you are a consultant of our National Security Bureau, which is equivalent to a professional. Perhaps we will ask for your opinions and suggestions." Hearing that he was going to meet so many heads, Tang Zheng was very calm, without the slightest bit of nervousness or excitement. He nodded expressionlessly and said, "I understand." The two came to a large conference room. As far as the eye could see, there were already more than 10 people sitting there. All of them had the face of an official. Many of them were big shots who often appeared in the news. Tang Zheng did not care much about these things, nor did he recognize who exactly was who. He just sat down in the back row and looked down, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Su Yingtian went to do other things. Tang Zheng was bored to death. He turned his eyes and swept them over each face. Perhaps if it were anyone else, they would have already been so excited that they could not control themselves, but Tang Zheng's state of mind was truly very mysterious. The matters of the outside world could not affect his mood at all. These people either lowered their heads and whispered or talked loudly. No one paid attention to Tang Zheng sitting in the back row against the wall. Suddenly, Tang Zheng's eyes turned to the door and saw a familiar face walk in. His pupils could not help but shrink. Xing Feng. He actually came too. Tang Zheng frowned inwardly. Xing Feng also saw Tang Zheng, and a light flashed through his eyes. When enemies met, their eyes would be exceptionally red. The two had already formed many grudges, and each wanted to get rid of the other. However, in this situation, there was clearly no need to make a big fuss. They only glanced at each other from afar, all of their hatred unspoken. Xing Feng did not directly have the qualifications to sit at the conference table. Instead, he sat in the back row and looked at Tang Zheng from afar. From this, it could be seen how high the standard of this meeting was. Dong dong dong. A series of powerful footsteps sounded, and the burly bureau chief walked in. Everyone hurriedly stood up. Tang Zheng did not want to be unconventional, so he also stood up. Su Yingtian followed beside the bureau chief and sat at the end of the conference table. Although his seat was at the back, he was at the conference table after all. Obviously, he was treated much better than Xing Feng. In fact, the reason Su Yingtian could sit in this position was all thanks to Tang Zheng. The Tianshan operation not only crushed the Rockefeller family's conspiracy, but also captured the terrorists who had been hiding. This was crucial to the stability and unity of the country. This time, Su Yingtian was the first to report the return of the demons to his superiors. Su Yingtian's position naturally rose. Moreover, he was an old man for decades. Compared to Xing Feng, who seemed to have soared into the sky, his foundation was more stable and he was more popular. Tang Zheng glanced at Xing Feng, only to see him glancing at Su Yingtian without leaving a trace. The cold light that flashed in his eyes was shocking to see. Dogs can't change their habits. Xing Feng is indeed up to no good. Tang Zheng thought silently and sat down with the others without saying a word. There were also people sitting on both sides of Tang Zheng. They sat upright and still and did not smile. Obviously, they were not small officials. In this room, other than the waiters who served tea and water, Tang Zheng was the youngest. Fortunately, the bureau chief attracted everyone's attention. Otherwise, he would have become the center of attention. It was not easy for a new face to sneak into a meeting of this level. There were many people who were curious about him. Tang Zheng already saw some people secretly glancing at him a few times. Chapter 775. The bureau chief's expression was serious as he said, "This is top secret information. Everyone, remember the rules of confidentiality. Once you see it, remember it in your heart. You are not allowed to spread it." Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Their originally relaxed expressions were immediately replaced by an unprecedented seriousness. The staff immediately distributed the information. There were a few simple pieces of A4 paper and photos. Everyone immediately lowered their heads to read. Tang Zheng also received a copy. He carefully read it. There was an introduction to the demon race and the expulsion of cultivators hundreds of years ago. It was the same as what Tang Zheng knew. He focused more on the photos. His heart skipped a beat. These photos were very cruel. They were all corpses with long bloodstains on their necks. There were probably tens of thousands of corpses. The other photos clearly showed a strange pattern. Complicated dark red lines outlined a huge pattern on the ground. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. Wasn't this the formation of the mountain river blood sacrifice array? Those red lines were formed by blood. Moreover, this formation was bigger than the one on Sky Mountain. The last photo was taken of the sky. Dark clouds gathered and formed a huge circle, like a tornado. One could vaguely see human figures moving in the dark clouds. It was frightening. Tang Jing closed his eyes after reading it. He leaned back in his chair and took a few deep breaths. His heart was pounding. Originally, he was 90% sure that the demon race had returned. Now that he saw these photos, the return of the demon race was a certainty. He really wanted to question Hundred Faces' Star Lord. Why did he do this? To unify this planet? He had been trapped in Mount Buzhou for tens of thousands of years. How could he still have such ambitions? However, when he thought of 100 Transformations' Star-Lord's childish appearance, he felt a chill in his heart. Back then, 100 Transformations' Star-Lord had wanted to turn them all into dolls. 100 Transformations' Star-Lord had probably done so purely for fun. He had treated the world as a game and everyone as dolls in the game. He had already limited himself to playing with a few people. He wanted to play with the world in the palm of his hand. Tang Zheng cursed fiercely in his heart. Why didn't anyone kill him back then? Why did he just trap him in Mount Buzhou? Why did no one stop him after tens of thousands of years? Originally, Tang Jing thought that his cultivation speed was very fast and was already very satisfied. He couldn't wait to increase his cultivation by a few times. That way, he might be able to stop the 100 Change Star Sovereign's absurd actions. The others reacted even more strongly than Tang Zheng. Although it was difficult for them to grasp the truth and severity of the matter from this simple information, the information revealed was something many of them had never heard of before. Even though the ranks of the participants were very high, many people were still unfamiliar with Xiuzhe, much less the MO. Therefore, other than being shocked, they were also somewhat at a loss. The bureau chief glanced at everyone and took in their reactions. He said in a deep voice, "Whether you understand it or not, listen to what I'm going to say next." Shua. Everyone immediately sat up straight and listened attentively. The demon race is extremely powerful and cruel by nature. If the multiform star sovereign summons the demon race back, then this world will be in chaos and the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. As the rulers, we can't just watch the people fall into danger and have to come up with a countermeasure. This time, we'll gather the wisdom of the masses and come up with a countermeasure to be implemented immediately. The bureau chief's words were sonorous and powerful. Even Tang Jing couldn't help but open his eyes and size him up. The bureau chief had been in a high position for a long time, but he still had a sense of responsibility in his heart. He had to be responsible for the tens of thousands of people. This made Tang Jing feel very gratified. At least, these officials weren't as lazy as the rumors said. They still had justice in their hearts. Since the demon race is returning from an island nation, there must be traces of them crossing the ocean. We'll send troops to attack and intercept their ships or planes. We won't let them take a single step into Huaxia. We'll just have to fend them off outside the country's gates, someone suggested resolutely. The others nodded. This method is feasible. We definitely can't let the flames of war spread to our own land. The war decades ago already caused our country to suffer great damage. We can't let the construction and achievements of these decades be destroyed in a day. No one was willing to let everything that was flourishing today go up in flames. If there was a crisis, solving it on the sea was instead the most perfect strategy. Yes, we've developed for decades and are already the second most powerful country in the world. We're not to be trifled with. The demon race was very powerful hundreds of years ago, but they might not be that powerful now. Now that technology is so advanced, the power of technology has far surpassed that of humans. Although there was a detailed introduction of the demon race in the information, it was hard for people who didn't experience it for themselves to imagine how powerful they were. It was even harder to imagine how powerful that cultivation world was. People who had experienced modern education wouldn't think that the strength of the human body could contend with guns and cannons. Many others also seemed to be encouraged and offered suggestions. Their morale gradually rose, as if they didn't take the demon race seriously at all. In their eyes, perhaps the ancients from hundreds of years ago were ignorant and ignorant. That was why they spread false rumors and made the demon race so powerful. Tang Jing sighed inwardly. Although this kind of high morale could be used and didn't destroy their own morale or boost the prestige of others, pride and arrogance would lead to great losses. Although he wanted to listen more and speak less, he saw that these people didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at all. Instead, they spoke with assurance and assurance. In the end, the ones who died were countless officers and soldiers. He really couldn't bear it. The demon race isn't as simple as you think. Tang Zheng's voice wasn't very loud, but this contrary tone was extremely ear-piercing and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Many people turned their heads to look for the speaker, but after looking for a long time, they still couldn't figure out who it was. Who is the one boosting the morale of others and destroying their own prestige? Cowering before the battle is a great taboo for military strategists. Who is it? Obediently stand up for me, someone shouted. The people around Tang Jing heard him speak and couldn't help but lock their gazes on him. The others finally found their target and began to pay attention. Sharp gazes focused on his face, but Tang Jing was completely unaware. He indifferently swept his gaze over the person who had reprimanded him and said, "I'm right here." "For you? So young, yet you're already speaking nonsense." The other party was stunned, apparently not expecting that such an excessively young person would be present at the meeting. He instantly became even more displeased. Most of the people here were old comrades. Since when was it the turn of a brat who was still wet behind the ears to criticize them? Hearing the other party reprimanding him for speaking nonsense, Tang Jing unhappily frowned. He had sincerely raised his opinion to prevent them from suffering losses, but now it was his fault. Tang Jing was in a bad mood, but he didn't care about Su Yingtian's warning. He loudly said, "Without investigation, you have no right to speak. You don't understand the actual situation, so why do you say I'm speaking nonsense?" "I don't understand the actual situation, but do you?" The other party fiercely retorted. Tang Jing shrugged and said, "In any case, I understand a little more than you." Seeing that the atmosphere was at daggers drawn, Su Yingtian couldn't sit still and hurriedly stood up to smooth things over. "This is Tang Jing, the consultant of our National Security Bureau." "Tang Jing." Many people immediately frowned. Although they didn't immediately recognize Tang Jing, many people were not unfamiliar with this name. After all, he frequently appeared in various major events, so these big shots would often inadvertently see his name appear in various reports. Seeing the real person this time, they couldn't help but be secretly surprised. This was because he was too young, so much so that he was the same age as many people's children, or even younger. "You're that cultivator." Tang Jing nodded. "You're a cultivator, jackals of the same tribe as the demons. What qualifications do you have to sit in on this meeting? I think the National Security Bureau is becoming more and more outrageous." Tang Jing frowned. "If you didn't invite me, I wouldn't have come." Su Yingtian also had an anxious expression. He repeatedly urged Tang Jing to listen more and speak less, but Tang Jing still couldn't hold back. These people were all old comrades, and many of them had the wrong idea of judging a hero based on age. They believed that those without hair on their mouths were not reliable. Therefore, naturally, many people didn't agree with Tang Jing. "I invited him." A dignified voice sounded. "Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh." Everyone's gaze followed the voice. "Bureau Chief." Many people's expressions changed. They didn't expect the bureau chief to invite him. This was too big of a deal. Originally, many people were prepared to bombard Tang Jing, but they immediately swallowed their words back into their stomachs. They looked at Tang Jing with a complicated expression. They thought to themselves, what did this brat do to deserve such respect from the bureau chief? Tang Jing was originally full of anger, but seeing that the bureau chief helped him out of the situation, he nodded at him in acknowledgement. The bureau chief looked at him and said, "Tang Jing, you're a cultivator, so you know more about the situation of the demons. Tell everyone." Tang Jing didn't decline. "Didn't you guys not like to hear it? Now you have to listen." Previously, someone said that the strength of cultivators was too great, and that it was just an exaggeration, right? His gaze swept over the person who said that. That person snorted and turned his head away unhappily. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up and said, "I want to say, you are completely wrong. The cultivator's strength introduced in the information in your hands is not exaggerated. In fact, there are many places that are too conservative. Cultivators are far more powerful than what they introduce." "Impossible!" Someone immediately exclaimed softly. "Impossible, right? Then what do you think will make you believe it?" Tang Zheng shook his head secretly. Although these people had good intentions in general, their knowledge was too shallow, and they were stubborn and inflexible. He decided to teach these people a lesson. This was not for their own good, but for the sake of the thousands of soldiers' lives. Otherwise, Tang Zheng would feel uneasy. Seeing that the other party was unable to come up with a reason, Tang Zheng said to himself, "As the saying goes, seeing is believing and hearing is false. Today, I will show you what a cultivator's true strength is. Let's see if it is just flowery fists and impractical legs." Chapter 776. Seeing the sudden change in Tang Zheng's aura, the previously ordinary young man became as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Seeing that the bureau chief had no intention of objecting, Tang Zheng casually pointed his finger. His true chi fluctuated, and before many people could understand what was going on, Tang Zheng had already retracted his hand. There seemed to be no reaction at all. Many people muttered, "There's nothing at all? He's deliberately mystifying." The person from before laughed loudly. "Huh, is this the strength of a cultivator? Bluffing to scare people?" Before he finished speaking, his face turned pale, and he shouted in panic, "What's going on? Why can't I move?" As soon as he said that, many people also exclaimed, "I can't move either. What kind of witchcraft is this?" In this huge conference room, except for the bureau chief, Su Yingtian, and Xingfeng, everyone else had turned into puppets. All of them looked as if they had seen a ghost and were shouting and screaming. Anyone who realized that they couldn't control their body would feel an indescribable fear. "Tang Zheng, is this your doing? Someone come, quickly catch him!" Someone shouted. Hurried footsteps immediately sounded outside the door. With a creak, the door was pulled open by the guards. Because Isl equal to the bureau chief frowned, waved his hand and said, "Get out." The guards hurriedly retreated, leaving only those people staring at each other, unable to hide the fear in their eyes. This was just the simplest body-locking technique. With Tang Zheng's current cultivation, dealing with these ordinary people, with just a thought, these people would immediately be locked in place. Of course, he didn't do that to the bureau chief. After all, he had to give him some face. As for Su Yingtian and Xingfeng, both of them were martial artists and weren't weak. They wouldn't be immobilized so easily. "Tang Zheng, you've already proven the power of a cultivator. Let them go." The bureau chief nodded at Tang Zheng. Of course, he knew the power of a cultivator, but he didn't stop him. He wanted to let these people experience it for themselves so that they wouldn't be ignorant. "All right," Tang Zheng replied. With a thought, he said, "You can move now." Sure enough, everyone discovered that they had regained their ability to move, and all of them turned pale with fright. This change far exceeded their imagination, and they truly felt the terror of a cultivator. Although it was just a small test, it was enough to see the strength of the Xiuzhe. The people who had refuted Tang Zheng earlier all quieted down and looked at the bureau chief at the same time. The bureau chief said without batting an eyelid, "Tang Zheng, what do you suggest?" "First, we need to figure out where they are going. As for intercepting them outside the country, I don't think that's realistic, because cultivators who are strong enough don't need to rely on any tools at all. They can fly from the island nation to Huaxia. Flying through the air." Everyone was immediately attracted by these 4 words. They all found it hard to believe. "You're saying that the demons can fly across the sea like birds? We can't rule out that possibility." Tang Zheng nodded. "This?" Many people gasped. Wasn't this the legendary means of the gods? But there will always be some people who can't fly through the air. The bureau chief added. What measures do we have to deal with these people? Tang Jing said without hesitation, then we'll intercept them outside the country. This coincided with the bureau chief's thoughts. The bureau chief nodded. Then we have to start collecting information on these people. We can't let the demon army set foot on Hua Xia's land. Tang Jing did not say a word, but he was not optimistic in his heart. The demons were everywhere. How could it be so easy to stop all of them in disguise? As for those demons who can fly through the air? The bureau chief threw another question, obviously wanting Tang Jing to give him a satisfactory answer. Let the radar monitor them. Tang Jing was at his wit's end. Humans were like birds, he didn't know if the radar could detect them. Then let the fighter jets intercept them? That's one way. Tang Jing nodded. But we have to be careful. These people are very strong. Even the fighter jets might not be able to do anything to them. Since they're in the air, can't we use missiles to shoot them down? Also, why don't we attack the island nation while the demons are still in the island nation? Someone suggested. Attack the island nation? Yes, use missiles to bombard targets that the island nation can see. We can even use nuclear bombs. Decades ago, they invaded us. This time, we should treat the island nation well. These words were radical. This was equivalent to declaring war on the island nation. The consequences were unimaginable. It might even cause a world war. No one present had the guts or courage to take on this responsibility. As expected, before the others could speak, the bureau chief had already rejected it. There's no need to bring up such an unrealistic and absurd suggestion. Everyone immediately fell silent. They couldn't come up with any bloody suggestions anyway. The bureau chief turned and looked at Xing Feng. He asked, "Does the dragon group have any countermeasures?" Xing Feng quickly stood up and said respectfully, "Bureau chief, the dragon group will definitely go all out. A new batch of mechas can be sent to the sea to face the enemy." After saying that, he glanced at Tang Jing from the corner of his eyes. In the past, many of the dragon group's mechas were directly or indirectly destroyed by Tang Jing. This made Xing Feng grit his teeth in hatred. Tang Jing's eyelids twitched. He had personally witnessed the strength of the mechas. The current strength of the mechas was probably on another level. This was the trump card of the dragon group. However, using the mechas to defend against the demons might be a good idea. Thus, Tang Jing glanced at Xing Feng and didn't object. After hearing Xing Feng's words, the bureau chief nodded. If that's the case, not only the dragon group, but the other military departments must also send out their elites. Once they find traces of the enemy, they must intercept them with all their might. The others didn't dare to disagree. They all nodded. Also, the matter of the demons is of great importance. Remember not to spread this matter. It is even more impossible to let the public know about this in case it causes social unrest. No matter what, maintaining social stability has always been the most important thing for us. The bureau chief added. The meeting continued, but the topics were closely related to the framework and core of the discussion. Tang Jing no longer interjected, his eyes lowered to his nose lowered to his heart, silently becoming a spectator. However, the wind didn't stop blowing. There were still many people secretly looking at Tang Jing. It was as if they wanted to remember this face. Today, Tang Jing's performance could be said to be amazing. He made these high-ranking officials recognize him. It was more convincing than just hearing a name or some rumors. Moreover, from the bureau chief's attitude towards Tang Jing, many people could see that this kid's future was limitless. Many of the more intelligent people had already thought of winning over this rising star. After the meeting ended, everyone left one after another. However, Tang Jing was left behind. Tang Jing, I heard that Tian Chanzi has already gone to the island nation. Did you find anything? The bureau chief asked directly. He didn't ask in public just now because he didn't want others to know too much. I can't contact him. I don't know what news he has. Tang Jing shook his head. If there is any news, share it with each other. This time, it's not just a matter of one person. It's a matter of the entire nation. It concerns millions of families. I know that you have some conflicts with the Dragon Group. I hope that if there is any cooperation this time, both of you can put aside your past grudges and work together sincerely. The bureau chief advised patiently. Tang Zheng looked at him suspiciously and asked, I have to work with the Dragon Group? The Dragon Group's mechas are very powerful. They are the most powerful equipment in our army. Of course, the mechas have to be used to intercept the demons. However, if you help from the side, it will be much easier. Therefore, if there is any news, I hope that you can work together sincerely with the Dragon Group. This decision made Tang Jing very surprised. He liked to fight alone. Even if he wanted to work together, he had never thought of working with the Dragon Group. The two of them were like fire and water. I will tell Xing Feng that he will definitely not find trouble with you. You are a magnanimous person. Let's forget about the previous conflicts. Since he had already said this, Tang Jing could not give him face. Moreover, Tang Jing saw Su Yingtian continuously giving him looks. Obviously, he wanted him to agree. All right. Tang Jing reluctantly agreed. I just thought of something. The Azure Dragon Hall is not weak. This force can be used to defend against the demons. He believed that the other party must know about the existence of the Azure Dragon Hall. Perhaps he had more insider information than him. Therefore, he purposely used the Azure Dragon Hall to attract attention. Or it could be said that he wanted to force the Azure Dragon Hall to reveal themselves. Hearing the three words Azure Dragon Hall, the bureau chief's eyes flashed with a complicated expression. Tang Jing looked at him suspiciously but didn't find anything strange. The Azure Dragon Hall is too mysterious. We also don't have accurate information. Therefore, it is not a good idea to use the people of the Azure Dragon Hall to defend against the demons. The bureau chief said calmly. Tang Jing sighed faintly. He didn't think that the bureau chief would reject him so straightforwardly. However, since the Azure Dragon Hall, Wu Zong Li and Gong Gong were jackals of the same tribe, it meant that their attitude towards cultivators was ultimately not friendly. Seeing the return of the demons, wouldn't they have a countermeasure? With the return of the demons, the first to be affected would be the warriors. Naturally, these three mysterious organizations would be included. If we can find the people of the Azure Dragon Hall, that would be the best. Tang Jing thought silently. However, the Azure Dragon Hall was too elusive. Where would he find their members? I know that you are a good patriotic youth. This time, you have to put in more effort. The country will not forget anyone who has contributed. The bureau chief said solemnly. Tang Jing smiled but did not comment. He said his goodbyes and left with Su Yingtian, leaving the center of power. The bureau chief returned to the study room alone. He turned around and personally closed the door. Chapter 777. This masked man was the head of the Azure Dragon Hall, the Lord. The bureau chief was not surprised by the masked man standing in the room. He nodded slightly at him and walked to the window, standing side by side with the Lord. How did the meeting go? The Lord asked calmly. After the bureau chief gave a brief introduction, he added, Tang Jing suggested for the Azure Dragon Hall to fight against the demons, but I rejected it in the end. The eyes behind the mask shone brightly, and he smiled strangely. Tang Jing is really indulging in fantasy. Actually, I think what Tang Jing said is not unreasonable. At this moment, the survival of the country is at stake. If the Azure Dragon Hall has a way, why not give it a try? You don't want to see this world really being occupied by the cultivators, right? The Lord frowned and asked suspiciously. You're all worrying for nothing. The demons have returned, but not all of them have. Island Nation is not rich in spiritual energy. Although the 100 Change Star Lord killed more people to make up for this lack, it didn't have much effect. Therefore, there are only about 100 demons that returned this time, and they don't have the ability to overturn this world. The Lord said as if victory was in his hands. Only 100? The bureau chief widened his eyes in surprise, and all the cells in his body seemed to be filled with joy. Really? Of course, when have I been wrong? The Lord was full of confidence. The bureau chief heaved a sigh of relief and said with lingering fear, it's really full of twists and turns. It's like riding a roller coaster. You don't know how much pressure I've been under. With pressure comes motivation. Although there aren't many demons that returned, they still have power that cannot be underestimated. They will definitely spare no effort to find a way to let the other demons return. This is what we really need to be wary of. The bureau chief understood and said, "Prevent all the demons from returning." The High Lord nodded his head. "That's right, so your military is barely qualified for the current mission. Moreover, with Tang Zheng's help, you guys are like a tiger that has grown wings. You should be able to snipe these demons." The Azure Dragon Hall has always been at odds with the cultivators. As the descendants of New Era, are you going to sit by and do nothing? The bureau chief was slightly dissatisfied. The Lord shook his head and smiled. "Of course not. The Azure Dragon Hall has more important things to do." "What is it?" "You don't need to know that." The High Lord didn't give him any face and directly said, "Although the military can deal with the rest of the demons, the ever-changing Star Sovereign is not an ordinary person. Is the Azure Dragon Palace going to sit by and do nothing?" This time, the Mountain River Blood Sacrifice Array did not really succeed. Then, next time, when the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was more prepared, wouldn't that mean that the demon army would be able to return smoothly? What should we do then? The bureau chief did not give up and continued to ask aggressively. "Last time, you said that you had a way to deal with the 100 Change Star Sovereign. However, until now, you have not done anything. What exactly is your Azure Dragon Hall planning to do?" The Great Lord looked at the bureau chief with a burning gaze. The bureau chief was not afraid at all. He raised his head and looked into the Great Lord's eyes. "If you have something to say, just say it. You can't just scare me with your eyes." The Great Lord smiled faintly. "I'm not trying to scare you. It's just that the Azure Dragon Hall has its own rules. It's not up to others to tell us what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do, but what's the purpose of keeping the 100 Transformations Star Sovereign?" The bureau chief continued to ask. The Great Lord turned his head slightly, and a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He thought to himself, "My 100-year plan is not something that you can guess. There's nothing else for me to do here. Goodbye." The Great Lord disappeared. As soon as he finished speaking, before the bureau chief could say anything to stop him, the Great Lord had already disappeared from his sight. The bureau chief's eyes kept changing. He punched the wall and said, deliberately mystifying and half-hearted, "The people of the Azure Dragon Hall are getting more and more unreasonable." Tang Zheng walked alone on the street, recalling what he had seen and heard during the meeting. Now, he could only wait for the official news. Once they found traces of the demons, they would definitely inform him. Tianchanzi, where did you run off to? You're so mysterious." He sighed deeply and suddenly raised his head. Why does this place feel so familiar? Only then did he realize that he had unknowingly come to a place not far from the Ye family. The Ye family's courtyard gate was already in sight. Although Ding Dang and I have broken up, the return of the demons is a matter of great importance. I should inform them in case something unexpected happens. Tang Zheng walked to the Ye family gate. When the guard saw him, he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Last time, when he made a scene at the Ye family, many people suffered at his hands. "Please inform Yi Tianlei or Feng Xinyang that I have something to discuss with them." Tang Zheng didn't force his way in and said politely. When the guard saw that he did not intend to barge in recklessly, he heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly turned around to report. A moment later, Yi Tianlei walked out with large strides. "Tang Zheng, why are you here?" Yi Tianlei's attitude was much better than last time. During this time, his dissatisfaction with Tang Zheng had gradually dissipated. "Tang Zheng, you and Ding Dang have already broken up. There's no need to continue entangling with each other." Tang Zheng's lips curled into a bitter smile. He shook his head and said, "I didn't come for that. I came to tell you something. I'll leave once I'm done." Hearing this, Yi Tianlei felt very regretful. In fact, he was very satisfied with Tang Zheng in all aspects. But the heavens made fools of people. In the end, the two young people didn't walk together. "Say it. If there's anything you want to tell Ding Dang, I can also pass it on for you." There's no need. Tang Jing shook his head. Since Yi Dingdang didn't want to be together, then he had nothing to say. Oh, I was wondering who came. With such great face, you actually made Uncle Yi personally come to receive you. So it's you. An ear-piercing voice came from the gatehouse. A few people walked out confidently. Enemies on a narrow road. The person who came was actually Song Yu. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. Why was Song Yu at the Ye family? Tang Zheng, it's important for people to know their own limits. If you blindly pester endlessly and overestimate yourself, you'll be the one losing face in the end. Song Yu said sarcastically. Tang Jing stared at Song Yu. He never realized that Song Yu's face was so annoying. When he first met Song Yu at Ordinary Balance's courtyard, he was a refined and courteous young master who gave people a good impression. Later on, that impression slowly slipped. Now, when Tang Zheng saw this face, he had the urge to beat someone up. In fact, Song Yu looked like a modest gentleman, but he had two faces. Back then, he appreciated Tang Zheng, so he was naturally refined and courteous. Now that Tang Jing had far surpassed him, his modest and gentlemanly demeanor was naturally thrown out of the window. It seemed that only by using words to provoke Tang Zheng would he be able to balance out a lot. Was it shallow? Indeed, shallow. Who said that the children of large families weren't shallow? They would definitely be gentle, refined, generous, and selfless. It was just that the people of large families were better at hiding and doing superficial work. But in front of Tang Zheng, Song Yu really couldn't pretend. Seeing Song Yu's unbridled sarcasm, Tang Zheng said coldly, Song Yu, what are you doing here at the Ye family? Who are you? What qualifications do you have to ask about my business? Song Yu said disdainfully, lightly raising his eyebrows, but seeing that you asked so sincerely, I'll tell you. I'm here to propose to Dingdang. Propose? Tang Zheng was so angry that his temples were throbbing. He looked at Yi. Uncle Yi, is this true? It's a long story. Tang Zheng, don't be so agitated. Yi Tianlei advised. Song Yu seemed to want to make Tang Zheng agitated and continued to provoke. Tang Zheng, you're so agitated. Are you very happy? I appreciate your kind intentions. Don't worry, when Dingdang and I get married, I'll send you an invitation. Tang Zheng snorted and said directly to Yi Tianlei, Uncle Yi, you can clearly see what kind of person Song Yu is. You absolutely can't push Dingdang into the fire pit. Tang Zheng, how can you say that? Who's the fire pit? You're pestering endlessly. Be careful that I don't hold back. Song Yu's expression turned cold as she berated. Tang Zheng's gaze turned cold as he said, I'm the one who's going to be impolite to you. I told you to stay away from Dingdang. If you don't listen, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Tang Zheng still had Yi Dingdang in his heart. Although he respected Yi Dingdang's choice, when he heard the explosive news of the marriage proposal, his anger couldn't help but soar. Song Yu knew very well that she wasn't Tang Zheng's opponent. She moved slightly and hid behind Yi Tianlei, shouting, You only know how to use your hands. Such a violent person is a disgrace to culture. Dingdang knowing you is the biggest mistake in his life. Uncle Yi, get out of the way. I want to teach this brat a lesson. Tang Zheng rubbed his fists and said angrily. This was the Ye family's gate. Yi Tianlei naturally couldn't turn a blind eye. He watched Tang Zheng attack Song Yu and hurriedly advised, Tang Zheng, calm down. Uncle Yi, how do you want me to calm down? Song Yu actually shamelessly came to propose to Dingdang. If I don't beat him until half his body is paralyzed, then I swear I will not rest. Tang Zheng said aggressively. Song Yu wasn't afraid at all and provoked. What you say sounds better than singing. This is the Ye family. How can you do whatever you want? Where will the Ye family put their face? Song Yu wasn't afraid and was trying to sow discord. He knew that Yi Tianlei wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. Perhaps, he wanted to provoke Tang Zheng's anger and make the situation go out of control. Although Tang Zheng guessed some of the other party's thoughts, he had to get involved in today's matter. Even if it was the other party's trick, he had to step in and ruin the so-called marriage proposal. Seeing Tang Zheng's anger, Yi Tianlei continued to persuade, Tang Zheng, listen to me. It's useless for you to stir up this matter. Is it? Then who is in charge of this matter? Uncle Yi, you are Ding Dong's father. Could it be that you will just watch as your daughter marries him? Tang Zheng questioned. Yi Tianlei glanced back from the corner of his eyes and didn't answer. Of course, he didn't want to marry his daughter to Song Yu. Chapter 778. Tang Zheng directly walked towards the door. Song Yu immediately shouted in a sarcastic tone, "Yo, Tang Zheng, what do you think the Ye family is? You just barged in like that. If this were to spread, where would the Ye family's reputation be?" It was obvious that Song Yu was trying to drive a wedge between them again. Although Yi Tianlei knew this, he had no choice but to comply with Song Yu's wishes. He stopped Tang Zheng. "Tang Zheng, don't be impatient. If you barge in like this, the old man will definitely go crazy. Things will become even more difficult to handle." Tang Zheng sneered. "Are you saying that I should wait for the dust to settle? Then the daylily will be too late. Uncle Yi, move aside. I'm going to see Yi Xuanji, not do anything else." "Tang Zheng, don't make it difficult for me," Yi Tianlei said awkwardly. Tang Zheng looked at him deeply and nodded. "Okay, I won't make it difficult for you." "That's right, let's talk things out." Yi Tianlei let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. Tang Zheng actually passed by him and rushed into the door. Yi Tianlei was shocked. Tang Zheng's speed was too fast, causing him to be unable to guard against it. "Tang Zheng, don't go in, stop." Seeing Tang Zheng rush in like lightning, Yi Tianlei hurriedly shouted to stop him. However, Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to him. Song Yu's eyes could not hide the shock and horror in them, especially when Tang Zheng passed by Yi Tianlei. He was as fast as lightning and he did not see it clearly. There was not even a trace of an afterimage. How did Tang Zheng's cultivation improve so much? Song Yu's expression couldn't help but become a little ugly. Seeing Yi Tianlei chase after him, he also quickly followed. Tang Zheng was familiar with the place and arrived at the reception hall in the blink of an eye. Some people were talking loudly and enthusiastically. When Tang Zheng suddenly appeared at the entrance, he immediately received everyone's gazes. Many gazes swept over, and many people couldn't help but frown. Yi Xuanji's eyelids twitched as he stared at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. He unhappily said, "Tang Zheng, why did you barge in?" Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to her. His eyes were firmly fixed on Yi Dingdang as he strode over and asked, "Song Yu came to propose?" Yi Dingdang looked at him expressionlessly and said, "What does this have to do with you?" "This has nothing to do with me, but I won't just watch you fall into a pit of fire," Tang Zheng said unyieldingly. Yi Dingdang's heart thumped as if it was fiercely poked. She was a little touched, but also a little heartbroken. In fact, this period of time was also very torturous for her. She liked Tang Zheng, there was no doubt about it. Breaking up with Tang Zheng would mean completely severing ties with him. Cutting him out of her life seemed easy, but when she really did it, she realized how painful her heart was. But there was no turning back. With her unyielding personality, of course she couldn't redeem herself, although she would occasionally have such thoughts. At this moment, seeing Tang Zheng's arrival, although she looked calm on the surface, her heart was already in turmoil. When Feng Xinyang saw Tang Zheng, her eyes were filled with passion. Just as she was about to greet him, she heard Yi Xuanji loudly say, "Tang Zheng, this is the Ye family, not a place for you to behave atrociously." Being ignored by Tang Zheng in front of everyone, Yi Xuanji's anger had already risen. Tang Zheng suddenly turned around and stared at Yi Xuanji from a distance. He found that there was also an extraordinary old man sitting next to him. This person was definitely not an ordinary person. He was very powerful, probably also a master. Tang Zheng immediately guessed the other party's identity. The head of the Song family, Song Jianan. It seemed that Song Yu's proposal this time was very grand. She even invited Song Jianan to be a witness. Song Yu had put a lot of thought into it. But in Tang Zheng's eyes, the head of the family was bullshit. Even if it was the emperor, he would still ruin this marriage, just like he did before. A person who doesn't even care about his own granddaughter's happiness has no right to lecture me, Tang Zheng said sarcastically. Yi Xuanji's old face was as red as a monkey's butt. He said angrily, Tang Zheng, I've always tolerated you because you're a junior, so I didn't argue with you. But there's a limit to everything. If you continue to be stubborn and pester endlessly, I'll let you know how powerful the Ye family is. Tang Zheng sneered. The Ye family is very powerful. I've finally seen it for myself. They can even sacrifice their own family's happiness for the rest of their lives. That's really powerful. Nonsense. Yi Xuanji's thoughts were seen through, and he became even more angry. This time, Song Yu invited Song Jianan to propose marriage. If it were before, Yi Xian would have had the chance to refuse. But now, the situation was pressing. The rise of the Song family made him feel a lot of pressure. But the Ye family was isolated and helpless. They were all alone. If Yi Xuanji refused again this time, and the first engagement was ruined, the Ye family would become a thorn in the side of the Song family. The Song family's first target would not be the Yan family, but the Ye family. To deal with the Ye family now, the Song family's strength was enough. By then, the Ye family would be in danger. Yi Xuanji was old and shrewd, and he easily saw through this. So this time, even though he knew that the Song family came to propose marriage, he did not reject them immediately. If Tang Zheng did not come to mess things up, perhaps Yi Xuanji would have agreed in the end. After all, this way, the Ye family could avoid a crisis. Although he sacrificed Yi Dingdong's happiness, the children of big families were mostly married to each other. How could there be so much freedom in love? On the contrary, it was more common for ordinary people to have freedom in love. This was the duty that should be fulfilled while enjoying all kinds of wealth and treatment. Yi Xuanji thought that this was a matter of course. As for Yi Dingdong's own thoughts, Yi Xuanji chose to ignore them. Song Jianan had been silently observing Tang Zheng. He was also very interested in this rising star, and thought that it was really a miracle. But miracles often did not last long, especially such a young and energetic person. There would be a day when he would fall. Moreover, Tang Zheng caused trouble everywhere. Not only was he like fire and water with the Dragon Group, he even recently heard that he had a conflict with the Rockefeller family. This made Song Jianan even more disregard for him. In fact, Song Jianan still felt a little regretful. Because he originally wanted to build a connection with the Rockefeller family, so he sent Song Yu to contact the young Lord Louis, and even provided a lot of convenience for the other party. Louis was able to gather tens of thousands of people in a short period of time, naturally without Song Yu's cooperation. However, Song Yu did not know about the Mountain River blood sacrifice array at all. He thought that it was just to catch some unimportant people, not worth mentioning, and even forgot about it. The matter of Sky Mountain was kept secret very well. Even Song Yu did not know that Louis had already died in the hands of Tang Zheng. Otherwise, he would not have acted so recklessly. Song Jianan was like an old fox, smiling at Tang Zheng and said, "Xuanji, this young man is really hot-tempered. He doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all, and he doesn't put the Ye family in his eyes at all." Tang Zheng raised his thick eyebrows. This old thing and Song Yu were indeed family. Their ability to sow discord was the same. Hearing this, Yi Xuanji slammed the chair and was about to stand up. Just at this time, Yinanlei rushed in and hurriedly pulled Tang Zheng, saying, "Tang Zheng, let's go out first. If there's anything, we can talk about it in private." Yi Tianlei was afraid that the old man would attack in anger, and if that happened, Tang Zheng would be at a disadvantage. In his impression, although Tang Zheng's strength was getting stronger and stronger, but after all, the older the ginger, the spicier the ginger, so he subconsciously thought that Tang Zheng was not the old man's opponent. Tang Zheng skillfully broke free from Yi Tianlei and said sincerely, "Uncle Yi, some things can be compromised, but some things must be insisted on. You don't want Ding Dang to live in pain and regret for the rest of her life, right?" Yi Tianlei's face was conflicted. As a father, he naturally wanted his daughter to be happy. "Uncle Yi, it's hard for you to do this, so let me do it. Ding Ding, don't worry, I will definitely not let their scheme succeed." Tang Zheng solemnly promised Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdong's heart was moved. She did not have a good impression of Song Yu. Last time at school, in order to anger Tang Zheng, she sat in Song Yu's car and got off as soon as they left the school gate. She did not want to have too much contact with Song Yu. But Song Yu was determined. This time, she even brought up Song Jianan to propose marriage. Although it was not finalized, Yi Dingdang could already see that Yi Xuanji was moved. Yi Dingdang was very disappointed. The so-called family was not worth mentioning in the face of benefits. Just now, she was even thinking about how Tang Zheng would react when he found out about this. She did not think that Tang Zheng would magically appear from the sky as if he had heard her thoughts. Yi Dingdang naturally did not want to marry Song Yu. Even if Yi Xuanji agreed, she would not take it seriously. So when everyone was talking about it, she did not say a word. Because she had already made up her mind to not agree. Whether others agreed or not, it was not worth mentioning to her. As for whether it would harm the Ye family's interests, Yi Dingdang did not have much feelings for the Ye family. Naturally, she would not care. She was like an indifferent spectator, watching this group of people play out this funny scene. Others did not know what Yi Dingdang was thinking. They only saw Tang Zheng's firm attitude. Yi Xuanji finally stood up from the chair. He glared at Tang Zheng and walked step by step towards him. The earth-shattering aura made the living room seem as if it had turned into a vast ocean, with stormy waves crashing towards Tang Zheng. "Father, there's no need to do this," Yi Tianlei advised. "Go away." Yi Xuanji waved his hand. Yi Tianlei staggered and retreated, leaving only Tang Zheng to face Yi Xuanji alone. Song Yu also chased after them and coincidentally saw the scene. Her eyebrows were raised in joy as this was a perfect situation. Tang Zheng did not know the difference between life and death and provoked Yi Xuanji. Even if he did not die this time, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Of course, it would be best if Tang Zheng died in the Ye family's hands. This way, the Song family would be able to distance themselves from him. Even if someone wanted to take revenge, they would look for the Ye family. This way, the Ye family would be more firmly attached to the Song family. His chances would be greater. "Tang Zheng, you asked for it. This time you asked for it, but in the end, you helped me." Ha! Song Yu was secretly happy. "Tang Zheng, I'll say it again. Get out of the Ye family immediately. Otherwise, I won't be polite." Yi Xuanji gave his last ultimatum. Tang Zheng did not move at all. He looked at Yi Xuanji indifferently. He did not take him seriously at all. Chapter 779. Yi Xuanji was angered to the point of blowing on his beard and glaring at Tang Zheng. His eyes flashed with an ominous glint as his 5 fingers formed into claws. With a roar, he clawed at Tang Zheng's shoulder. He was ready to teach Tang Zheng a lesson. After all, he didn't have a good relationship with Tang Zheng. However, he didn't want to kill Tang Zheng. After all, Tang Zheng had the mysterious Tian Chanzi behind him. If he offended Tian Chanzi, he would lose more than he could gain. Tang Zheng moved his feet slightly and moved his body slightly. Yi Xuanji's 5 fingers actually brushed past Tang Zheng's clothes and didn't hurt him at all. Yi Xuanji's heart skipped a beat. Tang Zheng's movement was too casual and smooth. He instantly disintegrated his attack. However, Yi Xuanji was a veteran after all. His other hand was like a long whip, grabbing at Tang Zheng's shoulder. Tang Zheng didn't dodge this time. Instead, he moved like lightning and grabbed Yi Xuanji's wrist. Up! Tang Zheng let out a low roar, and Yi Xuanji discovered that his feet had left the ground. "Shit!" Yi Xuanji cried out. He tried to land on the ground, but he found that an irresistible force lifted him up and sent him flying. Bang! Yi Xian and Yi Xuanji landed far away. They staggered back 3 steps before stabilizing their bodies. The ground under their feet was already in a mess. Yi Xuanji was still in shock. He looked at his hands and then at Tang Zheng. He couldn't understand how he lost his hands so carelessly. Everyone's expression changed. None of them were mediocre. They immediately judged that Tang Zheng's failure wasn't a coincidence. It was his true strength. In fact, they only needed to think a little to understand that in front of a master like Yi Xuanji, it was impossible for a coincidence to happen. With his strength and vision, he could kill any coincidence in the cradle. Song Jianan looked at Tang Zheng with a serious expression. He recalled the scene just now and couldn't help but secretly praise him. Whether it was the strength or the timing, they were all perfect. Not only did this require one's own strength as a foundation, but it also required the support of one's battle experience. It was rare to see someone at such a young age reach such a realm. No wonder you suffered so much at the hands of the other party. Indeed, it's not unjust. However, for the sake of the great cause of the Song family in the future, we should get rid of this nail. The killing intent in Song Jian'an's heart gradually accumulated. Tang Zheng looked at Yi Xuanji indifferently and said, "Show me what you've got. Since you can't beat me, then I'll take care of this matter." Yi Xuanji was only at the first level of the Supreme Power Realm and had barely touched the threshold of the second level of the Supreme Power Realm. Compared to Tang Zheng, who had a second level of the Golden Core Realm, it seemed that there was only one level difference, but in fact, there was a huge gap between them. Tang Zheng was confident that no matter what, Yi Xuanji was no match for him. Yi Xuanji's expression kept changing. With so many people watching, if he lost again, it would really be a disgrace. He took a deep breath and said, "Tang Zheng, don't be arrogant." After that, his hands turned into claws, one in front and one behind. The air seemed to be torn apart, leaving behind afterimages of claw marks. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng stood still. When the other party was in front of him, he threw out both fists and moved forward together, like two angry dragons coming out of the sea. Bang! Bang! The fists hit the claws. The claws tried to catch the fists, but they found that the huge force directly shook them away. Tang Zheng moved his legs. With a small step, he was already in front of Yi Xuanji. The attack of his fists was not reduced, and they were aimed at Yi Xuanji's chest. Yi Xuanji retreated in a hurry and put his hands forward, trying to block the two huge fists. However, he heard a crisp sound and a sharp pain came from his wrist. Tang Zheng's fist directly broke his wrist. The fist slipped out of his arm and hit his chest. Bang! With a thunder-like explosion, Yi Xuanji was sent flying to the door. The door creaked as if it was going to fall down. Tang Zheng's series of attacks did not have any tricks. It was all strength. It was dazzling and as fast as lightning. It was a real test of one's skills. Many people were already dumbfounded. If they were shocked at the beginning, then now they were frightened. Each and every one of them looked at Tang Zheng with eyes full of disbelief and astonishment. "Father!" Yinlei hurriedly helped Yi Xuanji up, patted the dust on his body, and asked with concern, "Father, how are you?" Yi Xuanji's face was ashen. It was not that he was heavily injured. Only the fracture of his wrist was a little uncomfortable, but this pain was nothing to him. He was more shocked. Tang Zheng was stronger than him, and not just a little bit stronger. He had a feeling that if Tang Zheng had not shown mercy, the fist that hit his chest would have directly shattered his ribs and even his heart. It was precisely because he knew all of this that all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart, and he was practically unable to accept such a cruel reality. He had been practicing for a lifetime and finally broke through to the first level of the Supreme Power Realm. In the eyes of others, it was already rare and commendable. However, Tang Zheng surpassed him in just over a year. What did this mean? It was like Yi Xuanji's lifetime of hard work was a joke compared to Tang Zheng, a big joke. Yi Xuanji's face was red for a while, then pale for a while, and then gloomy for a while. In short, his heart was broken. Tang Zheng no longer paid attention to Yi Xuanji. Instead, he walked to Yi Dingdang and said straightforwardly, "Your happiness is up to you. No one can tell you what to do. This is the only thing I can do for you." These words were clean and neat, but also revealed endless helplessness and pain. Because he could not save this relationship. Yi Dingdong's eyes rippled, and a trace of dense qi rose from the depths of her eyes. She bit her lips and could not say a word. Her mood was fluctuating too violently. It was not because of Tang Zheng's amazing cultivation, but because of these words, because of Tang Zheng's heart. There was no doubt that Tang Zheng still liked her. She clearly felt this, and she also liked him. However, the hurdle in her heart was like the world's first mountain, which she could not cross at all. Feng Xinyang looked at Tang Zheng with shining eyes. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. He was so handsome. She sighed endlessly. Why couldn't such a handsome man be her son-in-law? That would be a huge loss. However, her daughter's happiness was up to her. Feng Xinyang did not intend to interfere. Tang Jing looked deeply at Yi Dingdang. He did not expect her to respond. Just looking at her like this, he felt that what he did was enough. Suddenly Yi Dingdang's pupils shrank, as if she had seen something. She shouted, "Careful!" Tang Jing's heart trembled. He hurriedly turned around and threw a punch. Bang! Tang Jing flew out and crashed into the wall, creating a large hole. Immediately, his eyes lit up. He stared at the enemy who was charging at him like lightning. Song Jianan. He actually launched a sneak attack. Song Jianan was completely helpless. He originally thought that Yi Xuanji could deal with Tang Jing, or even kill him. Later, he realized how ruthless and cruel reality was. It did not go according to his expectations at all. Tang Jing's strength had exceeded everyone's expectations. Yi Xuanji's defeat was without suspense, and it was a clean defeat. Even though Yi Xuanji still had the strength to fight, it was clear that his momentum had been completely destroyed by the 2 consecutive attacks. If Song Jianan still did not make a move, then the marriage proposal would really be ruined. Killing Tang Jing would be even more difficult. Thus, he chose the safer method of a sneak attack. He even concealed his aura and launched his attack at lightning speed. Who would have thought that at the crucial moment, Yi Dingdang's warning would cause him to fall short of success? Song Jianan had the intention of killing Tang Jing in one strike, but in the end he only sent Tang Jing flying. He did not give up, and like a dragon, he followed Tang Jing like a shadow, arriving in front of Tang Jing. Tang Jing angrily roared, his voice shaking the teacups in the hall to the point that they all shattered. Then, he pushed his hands forward, and the War Soul Sword appeared in his hands out of thin air, fiercely chopping down. Song Jianan saw the battle soul that appeared out of nowhere. His face showed a trace of strangeness. He already knew a lot about the divine abilities of cultivators. Seeing it with his own eyes was still amazing. However, he did not retreat. He extended his palm forward and patted the sword. Then, like a water snake, that pair of large hands actually wrapped around Tang Jing's arm. "Shake!" Song Jianan roared. His arm exerted strength. It was as if steel needles were piercing into Tang Jing's arm. The heart-wrenching pain caused Tang Jing's arm to go numb. Battle's soul actually fell from his hand to the ground. Tang Jing was extremely shocked, as no one had ever shaken the War Soul Sword out of his hands, and Song Jianan was the only one. Immediately, Tang Jing understood that the other party's cultivation was much higher than Yi Xuanji's. This was a difficult character to deal with. Song Jianan's cultivation was indeed higher than Tang Jing's. He had already reached the master level several years ago. In these few years, he had just broken through to the 4th level of the master level. He was 2 levels higher than Tang Jing's cultivation. Looking at the painful expression on Tang Jing's face, Song Jianan said proudly, "Now you've tasted the taste of my 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand. This is only the beginning. Next is the real show." 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand. Tang Jing's eyelids twitched. The pain just now was indeed like thousands of steel needles piercing into his skin. It lived up to its name. Since there was also the word bone-breaking, then the next step was definitely to break his bones. He did not guess wrong. This 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand was a ruthless method. When facing the enemy, Song Jianan's arm was soft as if it had no bones. It was like a snake wrapping around the opponent. Then, his inner strength burst out. It was like thousands of steel needles piercing out of his skin, piercing into the opponent's skin and even into the bones. The next step was an even more tragic broken bone. The true chi that pierced into the bones would explode. A series of crackling sounds could be heard, like the sound of firecrackers. It could cause the muscles and bones of a person to explode in an instant, turning them into a pile of mud. "Break!" Song Jianan roared again, tightly grabbing Tang Jing. Chapter 780. Tang Jing was in so much pain that he wanted to die, but he still clenched his teeth and endured it. He flipped his palm and grabbed Song Jianan's arm, and fiercely pushed his chi back. Like a spring, Tang Jing used this force to shake himself out of Song Jianan's grasp. Song Jianan was a little surprised. He was sure of victory, but he was still able to escape. He really did have some skills. Want to run? Stop right there. Song Jianan roared and chased after him like a maggot. Yi Dingdong's heart couldn't help but jump to her throat. She subconsciously grabbed Feng Xinyang's hand, and her palm was covered in cold sweat. Feng Xinyang sighed. What was the point of this? He cared so much, but pretended to be indifferent. Of course, with Feng Xinyang's temper, how could she just stand by and watch Song Jianan bully the weak? She stood up and shouted, Song Jianan, what you're doing is too despicable. You're bullying the weak, and you even used a sneak attack. What kind of man are you? Feng Xinyang's words made Song Jianan's expression change. He coldly snorted and said, Women really do have long hair and short eyes. I'm helping your Ye family, and you're biting the hand that feeds you? Little handsome brother, you've helped the Ye family, and you've helped me, Feng Xinyang. And, since you're doing this, I can't just stand by and watch. She could sit by and watch Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang break up, but she couldn't just stand by and watch Tang Zheng get bullied like this. That wasn't her style. Therefore, seeing injustice on the road, Feng Xinyang roared and rushed towards Song Jianan, shouting, Stop! With her cultivation, facing Song Jianan was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. But so what? She just couldn't stand Song Jianan. Yi Donlei had already opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Yi Xuanji's face became even more gloomy as he shouted to stop her, Feng Xinyang, stop right there. Feng Xinyang turned a deaf ear to him and directly grabbed at Song Jianan's back. Song Jianan turned his hand and hit back. Bang! Feng Xinyang was like a kite with a broken string. She flew backward and crashed into several pieces of furniture before stopping. Blood was flowing out from the corner of her mouth. Seeing this, Yi Dingdang was enraged, and all the wolves in him lost their vigor. He shouted, You dare to hurt her, I'll fight you to the death. Shua! He raised his clear wind sword and thrust it forward as fast as lightning. The clear wind sword was as light as a feather. It was a true treasure sword. When paired with the wind-chasing sword art, it was truly wondrous. Song Jianan didn't put Yi Dingdang in his eyes at all. He didn't even turn his head as he tried to force Yi Dingdang back with a palm strike. However, his palm missed. With a flash of sword light, the Qingfeng sword pierced through his palm. Blood splattered everywhere. Ugh! Song Jianan gave a pitiful cry as he forced back Tang Zheng. He suddenly turned around and stared at his palm. He saw that his palm had been pierced through by the clear wind sword and blood was dripping down. You actually injured me. He gritted his teeth and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Ever since he became famous, he had never been in such a sorry state. His palm had been pierced by a little girl who was still wet behind the ears. This was a great humiliation. However, he was also shocked in his heart. Other than the fact that he had underestimated his opponent, the most important reason was that Yi Dingdong's sword art was too exquisite. It caught him off guard. Of course, if he had been more careful, even if there were two Yi Dingdang, they wouldn't have been able to hurt him. All of this was a coincidence. But an injury was an injury. With so many pairs of eyes watching, there was no way to argue. The others were also stunned as they looked at the clear wind sword in Yi Dingdong's hand that was still dripping with blood. Suddenly Yi Tianlei shouted, Dingdang, be careful. He threw himself at his daughter without a care for his own safety. This was because he had already seen the strong killing intent in Song Jianan's eyes. Even if Yi Dingdang was a member of the Ye family, Song Jianan would definitely kill her to protect his own face. He was not wrong. Song Jianan really did make a move. Song Jianan's large hand reached out to grab Yi Dingdang. With Yi Dingdong's cultivation, as long as she fell into his hands, it would be hard for her to escape. Yi Dingdang panicked and the clear wind sword turned into a blur as it quickly pierced toward Song Jianan. However, Song Jianan had already seen the power of the clear wind sword and had already thought of a way to avoid it. He easily dodged the sword and his large hand reached towards Yi Dingdong's head. Don't! Yi Lei rushed over and his large fist carried the sound of wind and thunder as it flew towards Song Jianan. Yi Dunlei flew out and spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. Song Jinan's attack was slightly blocked and his hand fiercely descended. Yi Dingdang could not dodge and was almost in despair because she could clearly feel the pressure and aura coming from above her head. Go to hell! Suddenly, a shout came from behind Song Jinan. It was Tang Zheng's attack. Song Jinan had been on guard against Tang Zheng. When he heard the sound, his other hand pushed backwards. The two palms fiercely hit each other. However, Song Jinan did not feel that Tang Zheng was sent flying. Instead, he stuck to his palm like glue. What's going on? He felt that something was strange and felt a strong wind behind him. He had no choice but to give up on Yi Dingdang and turn around to face Tang Zheng. Another palm, and the other two palms also stuck together. For eyes met, and Song Jinan felt a bit strange in his heart. Coincidentally, he saw the strange look in Tang Zheng's eyes, and his heart couldn't help but getting. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up and said, Song Jinan, taste this. As his voice fell, Tang Zheng activated the swallowing the sky technique. A trace of mysterious power was born from his palm. A huge suction force was immediately produced. It was like a huge black hole, swallowing Song Jinan's power. Ah! Song Jinan cried out in shock. Kid, what are you doing? Tang Zheng laughed and said, What do you think? Of course, he was using the swallowing the sky technique to absorb Song Jinan's power. This was the first time he used this function of the swallowing the sky technique in actual combat. When he felt the surging power coming from his palm, he felt that everything was so wonderful. The swallowing the sky technique is indeed extraordinary. Humph, Song Jinan, you old man. Don't think that just because your cultivation is high, I can't deal with you. Tang Zheng was secretly pleased. Let me go! Song Jinan roared with a heart-wrenching voice. His power flowed out of his body like a flood. How could he panic? This was something he had never heard of or seen before. It actually made him feel a sense of dread. His power was everything to him. If he lost his power, then he was worthless. The Song family would also be annihilated in an instant. The others did not know what was going on. They only looked at the two people's palms. There was no shocking aura, nor was there a dazzling fight. It was so simple and calm. However, it made Song Jinan feel as if his liver and guts were about to burst. Yi Xuanji's expression was complicated. He could not hide the horror in his eyes. Although he had lost to Tang Zheng, he did not expect that Tang Zheng would have such a strange skill that made Song Jinan so scared and flustered. Song Yu's face had already turned from red from excitement to deathly pale. The matter of victory that was within his grasp had actually become turbulent again, which was something he had never expected. Yi Dingdang's eyes were filled with splendor as she stared straight at Tang Zheng. The corner of her mouth couldn't help but reveal a smile. This was the big hero she liked. No matter how strong the other party was, she dared to challenge them and was good at creating miracles. Everything in front of her was a miracle. Tang Zheng crazily operated the swallowing the sky technique, and his power quickly flowed into Song Jinan's body. Song Jinan's face was already pale. He finally understood the danger he was facing. Tang Zheng was absorbing his power. Although he did not know what method he used, he succeeded. Suddenly, Song Jinan took a deep breath and his eyes almost popped out. This was because he felt that his cultivation had dropped by a level, from the 4th level of the Supreme Power Realm to the 3rd level of the Supreme Power Realm. The 4th level of the Supreme Power Realm was the accumulation of his hard work. He had just broken through recently, but he was demoted just like that. All his hard work was in vain. This kind of feeling was really unpleasant. What made him even more fearful was that this was not the end. If this continued, he dared to conclude that his cultivation would be reduced to nothing. What are you doing? Hurry up and help me! Song Jinan shouted at the top of his lungs. Song Yu seemed to have woken up from a dream. A fierce look flashed in her eyes and she rushed over. Tang Zheng braced himself and prepared to deal with Song Yu's attack. Unexpectedly, Song Yu did not attack him at all. Instead, she swept past him and attacked Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang thrust her sword forward. The tip of her sword was extremely sharp, but it did not force Song Yu back. He was like an incomparably ferocious lion, and in his hand, a cold glint of light appeared as he clashed with Qingfeng's sword. Yi Dingdang knew Song Yu very well. Seeing him so fierce, she could not help but be shocked. How did you become so powerful? In the past, Song Yu needed others to protect him. But now, with the strength he had shown, he definitely did not need ordinary people to protect him. His strength was far beyond other people's expectations. Song Yu sneered proudly. The long sword in her hand quickly attacked Yi Dingdang and she said, "It's too late for you to realize it now." Although he did not want to destroy the flower, the situation had already developed beyond his control. He could no longer hide. Although Yi Dingdang had Qingfeng's sword and chasing wind sword technique, Song Yu was not weak either. The long sword in her hand danced in an airtight manner. Her power was definitely not weak. Her cultivation was not weaker than Yi Dingdang. Especially her sword technique, it was very powerful and had extraordinary power. What sword technique is that? Yi Dingdang cried out in surprise. Song Yu coldly snorted and said, "You finally know how powerful I am. You dare to gang up and attack my grandfather. Don't think you will have an easy time." Shwa shwa shwa. Sword light filled the sky. Yi Dingdang was actually enveloped by the sword light. She was in danger. Seeing this, Tang Jing impatiently shouted, "Song Yu, you hid your strength so deeply." Although he knew that Song Yu's cultivation was not weak, he did not expect her to be so powerful. She was even able to hide from his eyes. This was definitely not an ordinary matter. He had to admit that he had underestimated Song Yu. Chapter 781. The speed at which Tang Jing absorbed the power was very fast. Song Jinan's cultivation dropped by another level, to the second level of the supreme power realm. His face had already turned pale. This kind of blow almost made him collapse. He couldn't help but roar, "Tang Jing, what kind of demonic technique are you using? How can you absorb my power?" The others only saw that the two of them were in a stalemate, but they didn't know that Tang Jing was absorbing Song Jinan's power. When they heard these words, they were all shocked. Tang Jing felt that the surging power in his meridians was gathering in his dantian. It was completely absorbed by the golden core, and then it was continuously converted into genuine qi. He felt that his cultivation was soaring rapidly. Suddenly, a terrifying light burst out from his eyes, which was breathtaking. Third level of the golden core. Tang Jing exclaimed secretly. This was really a rocket-like speed. He had actually improved his cultivation so easily. This sky-swallowing technique was indeed extraordinary. It could absorb the enemy's power and immediately convert it into his own cultivation. No wonder some people would be immersed in this feeling and blindly use the sky-swallowing technique to improve their cultivation, forgetting to cultivate hard. Because this was really too tempting. Even he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. Song Jianan also noticed the change in Tang Jing's momentum. It was obvious that his strength had increased a lot. He became more and more shocked, and cold sweat broke out on his head. As smart as he was, of course, he understood that Tang Jing must have absorbed his power and turned it into his own. He had never heard of this kind of divine skill. He couldn't help but feel that his liver and guts were about to burst. He shouted, "Oh, hurry up." Song Yu's attack power had increased greatly. Yi Dingdang was overwhelmed by the dazzling sword technique. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang had been hit by Song Jinan's two palms and had lost their resistance. It was impossible for them to help Yi Dingdang. Yi Xuanji's expression changed. He hadn't lost his fighting strength, but he could only watch his granddaughter in danger. Song Yu's sword technique was very gaudy, but within the gaudy was an extremely sharp sword move that had a very strong bewildering effect. If an ordinary sword technique was too flashy, its attacking power would naturally be greatly reduced. However, this sword technique was different. It was unknown what kind of genius the creator of this sword technique was, to actually hide so many killing moves within the flashy sword technique, causing people to be unable to guard against them. It was another series of dazzling attacks. Yi Dingdang was at the center of the sword light. She brandished the clear wind sword to resist. However, most of Song Yu's sword moves were feints. She had no choice but to use her sword to block them, which consumed a lot of energy. Suddenly Yi Dingdang blocked another feint. A beam of sword light suddenly shot up from below, but she had no time to block it. If she was hit, her stomach would definitely be cut open. This was a real killing move. No! Tang Zheng had been silently paying attention to the battle situation. Seeing this dangerous situation, he could no longer bear it and gave up on Song Jianeng. His figure flashed and blocked in front of Yi Dingdang. The long sword cut open his clothes, leaving a long sword mark on his chest. Blood flowed out. Tang Zheng frowned, but he did not retreat. Behind him was Yi Dingdang. He had no way to retreat, so he quickly reached out and grabbed the sharp long sword. Song Yu felt as if the long sword was caught in a vice. He could not move an inch. Seeing the murderous intent in Tang Zheng's eyes, he was shocked. The long sword was broken into two, and Tang Zheng held onto one of the short swords, directly thrusting it towards Song Yu. Song Yu tilted his head to the back. Although he managed to avoid being hit in the vitals, his face still blossomed with blood. That handsome face of his was slashed open with a 10 centimeters long wound. Song Yu grimaced and quickly retreated. Song Jianeng broke free, the soles of his feet were oiled, he shouted, "You run." This was the only thought left in Song Yu's mind. He also knew that Tang Zheng was not a match for him. Even the old man had suffered a loss. The opponent was ridiculously strong. The grandfather and grandson were like stray dogs. They no longer had the arrogance from before. They flew out of the hall. Tang Zheng's anger had not subsided. He roared, "You want to run? Watch this sword." His palm sucked in the air and the War Soul sword returned to his hand. Then, with a sharp sound, the War Soul sword flew out of his hand and flew toward Song Yu. The War Soul sword pierced through Song Yu's back. Song Yu staggered and almost fell to the ground. Luckily, Song Jianeng lifted him up. With a leap, he jumped onto the roof and escaped without a trace. The War Soul sword flew back. There were still traces of Song Yu's blood on the sword. Tang Zheng was not sure if the sword had killed Song Yu, but even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. "How are you?" Yi Dingdang impatiently rushed in front of Tang Zheng. She saw that his chest was dyed red with blood. She could not see the wound clearly, but it was extremely sinister and terrifying. Her face immediately turned pale. She panicked and said, "Don't scare me. How are you?" At the critical moment, her feelings for Tang Zheng were revealed. Tang Zheng smiled. It was very bright, like a child. "You can still smile." Yi Dingdang snappily scolded. Tang Zheng heartlessly smiled and said, "You still care about me." Yi Dingdang's cheeks turned red. She rolled her eyes at him and pretended to be calm as she said, "Who cares about you? Don't think too much. Seeing that you can smile, you must be fine." With that, she ran to the side. Her heart was beating like a deer. She took a few deep breaths to stabilize her emotions. "Dad, Feng Xinyang, how are you too?" When Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang saw that the enemy had been defeated, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. They forced themselves to stand up and shook their heads. "We're fine. It's good that you're fine." With that said, they looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. All sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. It was as if they had 1,000 words to say, but they did not know where to start. No one expected things to turn out like this. The Song family was crazy. They actually dared to lay their hands on Yi Dingdang. Their daughter was their precious treasure, their lifeblood. If they dared to lay their hands on Yi Dingdang, then they dared to fight with their lives on the line. The Song family's actions completely shattered the last trace of good feelings in their hearts. Now, no matter who wanted to matchmake Yi Dingdang and Song Yu, unless they stepped over their dead bodies, they could forget about succeeding. Tang Zheng glanced at the two of them. From their expressions, he already got the answer he wanted. This marriage was completely ruined by him. He smiled brilliantly again. "Father, it seems that we are not suitable to stay in this house, so we will immediately move out of this house." Yanlei said resolutely to Yi Xuanji, who had been standing by the side and watching silently. Yi Xuanji's performance had disappointed them. Facing an external enemy, he did not care at all, as if their life and death had nothing to do with him. Yi Tianlei was truly angry. As a husband and father, if he continued to compromise and stay in this family, then he would look down on himself. He couldn't help but feel fortunate that he had made the right choice in leaving this family back then. Otherwise, who knew what kind of person he would have become? If he became like Yi Xuanji, then he would be extremely terrifying. And Yi Dingdang was also very likely to become like Yi Meiyu. Just thinking about it made him shudder. Leaving the Ye family once again, he did not hesitate. Instead, it was a form of relief. Perhaps he did not belong to this big family after all. Although his surname was Yi, the blood flowing in his body was already very different from the Ye family. Yi Tianlei looked at Yi Tianlei with a complicated expression. Hearing his resolute words, he did not object. He understood Yi Tianlei and knew that he had already made up his mind to leave. Of course, this was not the only reason why he did not urge him to stay. Another reason was the most important one, and that was because when he saw Tang Zheng fighting just now, he had already thought about a lot of things. If he helped Yi Dingdang, then the Ye family would completely break off from the Song family, and it would be difficult to repair this rift. The Song family was powerful, and this was something that he did not want to see. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, he would definitely not completely break off from the Song family, and would also not help Yi Dingdang. Furthermore, Tang Zheng was too powerful. If he broke off from the Song family, and then repaired his relationship with Tang Zheng, or even used Yi Dingdang to marry him, he would definitely be able to gain Tang Zheng's good impression. But in this way, Tang Zheng would have one foot in the Ye family. With the speed at which Tang Zheng's strength soared, in a few years, no one in the Ye family would be able to suppress him. He would then be able to take everything from the Ye family for himself. The Ye family would no longer be surnamed Yi, but Tang. This was the scene that Yi Xuanji did not want to see the most. If this really happened, he would feel ashamed to face the ancestors of the Ye family, and would not have the face to see them in the afterlife. With all these factors mixed together, Yi Xuanji decided to stand by and do nothing, causing Yi Tianlei's family of 3 to be completely disappointed. Yi Xuanji did not try to keep Yi Tianlei from leaving the family, because after they left, Tang Zheng would no longer have a legitimate reason to enter the Ye family. The Ye family would really be safe. In the future, he would pass the Ye family to another son, and then, the Ye family would still be surnamed Yi. His wishful thinking was very good, and ordinary people would not be able to guess what he was thinking. However, no one guessed, because Yi Xuanji's actions were already chilling, and no one was bothered to guess. Tang Zheng was the happiest about the 3 of them leaving the Ye family. After leaving Yi Xuanji, no one could interfere with Yi Dingdang's freedom. This was definitely a good thing for him and Yi Dingdang. Moreover, Yi Dingdang's concern just now seemed to have activated the feelings in his heart. She still cared about him and liked him, but she deliberately put on a straight face. It was enough to confirm this point. He secretly sized up Yi Dingdang, only to discover that she was also looking at him from the corner of her eyes. When she saw his eyes, she felt as if she had been electrocuted and hurriedly retracted her gaze as if nothing had happened. Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. "Uncle Yi, let me help you." Seeing that Yi Tianlei could not move, Tang Zheng quickly offered his help and helped Yi Tianlei. Yi Tianlei looked at him with relief, nodded, and did not refuse. Yi Dingdang bit her lips, and the expression in her eyes kept changing. She also helped Feng Xinyang. Chapter 782. After leaving the Ye family, the 3 of them first found a hotel to stay in. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang both needed time to heal their wounds. Tang Zheng accompanied them the entire time and carefully took care of them while Yi Dingdang remained silent. After checking in, the 3 of them arrived at the luxurious suite. Yi Tianlei said with a face full of guilt, "Tang Zheng, thank you for helping us regardless of the past." Feng Xinyang also said, "Little handsome brother, only you truly care about our Dingdang." Yi Dingdang immediately lowered her head as her ears turned red. Tang Zheng faintly smiled, "This is what I should do. When I was in ordinary balance, you all helped me so much. We didn't help you even 1/10 of what you did for us. Are your wounds serious?" Feng Xinyang stared at his chest, He had already changed his clothes, but she could still see the blood on his collar. Tang Jing moved his muscles and said, "Do I look like I'm in trouble?" Along the way, he had already used his qi to heal his wounds. Not only had the blood stopped flowing, but his wounds had also mostly healed under the effects of his qi. As his qi increased, the healing effects of his qi became more obvious. "You should go take a shower first and wash off the blood. Otherwise, you won't feel good," Feng Xinyang suggested. "That's fine too. You all should rest first." Tang Jing entered a bathroom and closed the door, blocking out the sound of running water. The Ye family of 3 sat in the living room and fell into silence for a while. In the end, Feng Xinyang took the lead and said, "Ding, raise your head. There is no gold on the ground. Tell me the truth, what are you and little handsome brother going to do?" Yi Dingdang bit her lips as she couldn't help but recall the scene of Tang Jing blocking the sword for her. The emotions in her heart were indescribable, but in that instant, she thought of the matter between him and other girls and her mood fell to the bottom as she hesitantly said, "I don't know." "If you don't know, then who knows?" Feng Xinyang asked back. "Then what do you want me to do? Do you like little handsome brother? Tell me the truth." "I like him." "Then that's it. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that he also likes you. Both of you are in love with each other. Isn't this good? Do you know how many people dream about this?" Yi Dingdang was silent. "Say it." Feng Xinyang was anxious. "But he still has other women in his heart." Yi Dingdang was forced into a corner and blurted out. Feng Xinyang and Yi Tianlei looked at each other and fell into silence. Yi Tianlei faintly sighed and said, "Tang Zheng is good at everything, but he is fickle in love." Feng Xinyang rolled her eyes at him and said, "Isn't this a common problem for you men? Fickle radish." Yinlei suffered an unexpected calamity and innocently defended himself. "I'm not fickle in love." "You want to?" "No, definitely not." Yi Tianlei shook his head in denial. Feng Xinyang directly ignored him and said to Yi Dingding, "Daughter, although little handsome brother has this problem, he is very outstanding in other aspects. He's also very good to you. Just now, he blocked the sword for you without any hesitation. Can other men do this?" Yi Dingdang was speechless. Of course she knew the answer. It was extremely difficult for other men to do this. Since you both have each other in your hearts, but he has this problem, then what are you going to do? Feng Xinyang asked. Yi Dingdang grabbed her hair in distress and buried her head in her knees. She muttered in confusion, "I don't know either." She really didn't know. Originally, she had made up her mind to cut all ties with Tang Zheng and completely disappear from his life. That was why she used Song Yu as a shield at school. But this time, Tang Zheng's actions completely disrupted her decision. From the time he rushed in to propose marriage without any hesitation, to the point of fighting, to the time he sacrificed himself to save her, every bit of it caused Yi Dingdong's heart to surge. Even if her heart was made of stone, it would still be melted by this action. Moreover, deep down in her heart, she had always liked him. But she had never been able to convince herself to cross the hurdle in her heart. That was why she was so conflicted. She often thought that if she had known him earlier and fallen in love with him earlier, then perhaps there wouldn't be so many problems and they could fly away together. But when she thought about how outstanding Tang Zheng was and how other girls couldn't help but be attracted to him, she felt that even if that was the case, things might not go as she wished. Tang Zheng was like the brightest light, destined to attract many moths to the flame. Annoying, annoying, annoying. In short, she couldn't find the answer. Seeing her daughter so distressed, Feng Xinyang patted her shoulder and said, "Since you can't find the answer for now, then let nature take its course. Don't treat this little handsome guy as a life and death enemy. Slowly get to know him better and maybe you'll get to know him better." "AI, that's the only way." Yi Tianlei sighed. Although he felt that this would make his daughter suffer, if they separated, it would be even more painful and a big mistake. Yi Dingdang raised her head and said blankly, "Really? Why don't you give yourself a chance and give him a chance? Who can say for sure what will happen in the future?" Feng Xinyang shrugged. "Listen to your mother, I have a few more decades of experience than you. There's nothing wrong with that." Yi Dingdang hesitated for a moment, then pouted and compromised. All right then. The door opened and Tang Jing came out in clean clothes, saying, "You guys need to rest too. I'll take my leave after I'm done talking about something." Seeing him so serious, the three people's attention was drawn to him. "Actually, I went to the Ye family today to tell you guys about this matter. I was delayed just now." Tang Jing continued, "You should all know about the demon race, right?" The three people nodded. The demon race was a branch of the cultivators. Moreover, there was the matter of the demon god descending. They had more or less heard some rumors. A few hundred years ago, the cultivators were banished to the sky beyond heaven, but now the demon race has returned to this world. They are still in the island nation and no one knows when they will sneak back to Huaxia. The demon race has returned? The three people sucked in a breath of cold air. They had seen Tang Jing's growth and strength. They had a more comprehensive and profound understanding of cultivators and understood the power of cultivators. Hearing that the demon race had returned, they were naturally shocked. Tang Jing nodded heavily. "Yes, and it's not just one or two. It's estimated that the demon race's army has returned. Although the government already has a plan to deal with it, there will definitely be fish that slip through the net. If they set foot on this land, it won't just be a few people who will suffer, but everyone will be in danger. Perhaps, the few great families will be the first to be affected. The return of the demon race would definitely be a big move. The few great families were like meat on the chopping board, and they were the fattest meat. The demon race would naturally choose to attack them. If they didn't take countermeasures as soon as possible, the few great families might be annihilated." Edenlei naturally thought of this point and blurted out, "We must tell this news to father." Before he finished, he stopped. He had already left the Ye family and was no longer a member of the Ye family. Tang Jing was very dissatisfied with Yi Xuanji and said, "Uncle Yi, I'm telling you this news because I don't want too many people to know about it. Do you understand?" Yi Tianlei wasn't an idiot and immediately understood Tang Jing's thoughts. Whether the Ye family was destroyed or not was insignificant to Tang Jing. Perhaps he was even happy to see it happen. Yi Tianlei secretly leaking information, Tang Jing wouldn't approve of it. Although Yi Tianlei felt regretful, he didn't refute. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll listen to you. We'll keep this news in our stomachs." Feng Xinyang's feelings for the Ye family had long been exhausted. She was very satisfied with her husband's attitude and nodded approvingly. She asked, "Little handsome brother, then what should we do to deal with it?" "Try to raise your cultivation as much as possible and let your strength reach the peak." Tang Jing emphasized. "All right, we'll listen to you. During this time, our priority is to cultivate. After leaving the Ye family, we have nothing else to do." Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang nodded in agreement. "If there's any news, I'll inform you immediately. Also, if there's anything you need, you can contact me. I'll do my best. Also, if anyone comes to cause trouble for you, you must inform me immediately." Feng Xinyang's heart skipped a beat and asked, "You're worried about the Song family?" Tang Jing sneered, "I've absorbed a lot of Song Jianan's power and he can't even protect himself. If he still dares to stir up trouble, then he's seeking death. However, even if he doesn't stir up trouble, I won't let them go." These words contained a strong murderous aura, which made people feel very uneasy. Edenlei quickly asked, "You want to chase after the Song family?" "Of course, I've been too kind to the Song family. They've gone against me time and time again. They're really old enemies. At the Martial Arts Society convention, Song Yu once drugged me, causing me to almost die in the ring. If it weren't for my luck, I might have been killed by them." Tang Jing gnashed his teeth in hatred. The old and new hatred added together was too much to count. "You're saying that Song Yu did something at the Martial Arts Society convention?" They still remembered Tang Jing's situation in the ring. He was surrounded by danger. If he was careless, he might have died in the ring. The Song family actually used such a despicable method of drugging. It was really despicable. Feng Xinyang was indignant. "I've long disliked the Song family. I didn't expect them to be such bad people. Little handsome, fortunately you came in time. Otherwise, the Song family's wishes would have been fulfilled." Tang Zheng smiled faintly. It's not that I don't want to take revenge. It's just that the time hasn't come. Now that the time has come, I'll carefully settle the old and new grudges with them. Then what are you going to do? After all, the Song family's mansion is a place that the Song family has operated for many years. It's definitely an impregnable fortress. It's not an easy bone to chew. Yi Donlei sighed. I haven't thought of the specific method yet, but it's necessary to take advantage of the situation. So, I'm going to act according to the circumstances when I reach the Song family. In short, the monk can run away, but the temple can't. This time, I must deal with the Song family ruthlessly and leave them an unforgettable impression. We'll help you. Feng Xinyang blurted out. Tang Jing smiled and shook his head in refusal. He said goodbye and left. Chapter 783. The two of them left the room without a word and walked into the elevator. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Ding Dang, don't hide from me in the future, Tang Zheng said firmly. Yi Ding Dang looked up and glanced at him, not saying anything. You really don't want to talk to me? Tang Zheng asked mischievously. Thank you, Yi Ding Dang said in a low voice. Tang Zheng smiled indifferently. This is what I should do. If someone harasses you in the future, tell me. I promise I'll beat him up until his mother can't recognize him. Yi Ding Dang rolled her eyes and said, You only know how to hit people. Blind guy. If I don't hurt him, he won't know how powerful I am. Tang Zheng waved his fist. Violent maniac. Yi Ding Dang bit her lip and couldn't help but roll her eyes. Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. You're even more violent than me. In high school, you were the big sister of our school. Who knows how many people were afraid of you? Speaking of the embarrassing incident, Yi Ding Dang recalled and said, But you were never afraid of me. You weren't scary to begin with. You were so beautiful and attractive. Tang Zheng's mouth was as sweet as honey. If it were in the past, he would definitely not say such mushy words. But now that his relationship with Yi Ding Dang had improved, he was so excited that he blurted out such witty words. You've really become bad. We're on the first floor. Let's go. Yi Ding Dang urged. Walk with me for a while. No, let's go. Yi Ding Dang pushed him out of the elevator and quickly closed the door. She leaned against the elevator, her heart thumping. Just now, a man and a woman were alone in a small enclosed space. She was afraid that Tang Zheng would do something inappropriate. She didn't know how to deal with it. Perhaps she would fall into his trap. She shook her head and took a deep breath. Calm down, calm down. Don't think too much. Tang Zheng left the hotel in satisfaction. He felt that his trip had not been in vain since he had improved his relationship with Yi Ding Dang. However, today's matter was not over yet. He immediately rushed to the Song family. Song family occupied a large area, and they were all modern buildings built around a lake. On this trip, Tang Zheng did not think that he could keep a low profile, so he kicked the big iron door. The iron door fell down with a bang, scaring the guards who came to greet him. Tang Zheng didn't say a word. In just a few moves, he directly defeated the guard and knocked him to the ground, crying out in pain. Then he rushed straight to the Song family's main building. It was a luxurious 3-story European-style villa. Song Jianan, don't be a coward. Come out. Tang Zheng roared like a loudspeaker. His voice spread in all directions, startling the birds in the forest and causing them to flap their wings and fly into the sky. There was no response. The servants and guards looked at the uninvited guest from afar. They never thought that there would be someone who dared to be so arrogant in the Song family. He pointed out Song Jianan's name and shouted at him. Moreover, Song Jianan seemed to have disappeared and did not respond. Tang Zheng frowned and said, Don't tell me you're going to run away so quickly. You can run away from the monk, but you can run away from the temple. I don't believe you're willing to part with such a big family business. The others did not understand what he meant. They heard him continue, Everyone in this building, come out. Otherwise, don't blame me if you're buried alive. A large group of people ran out of the building. They looked at him in horror, not knowing what he was going to do. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up into a smile, he opened his palm, and the War Soul Sword appeared in his palm. Then he pointed forward, and the War Soul Sword turned into a sword light, fiercely slashing at a few pillars of the building. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy pillars were like tofu under War Spirit. They were cut in half. The building immediately creaked and was on the verge of collapse. Song Jianan, you can continue to be a coward. Today I will tear down your entire house. Boom. A loud sound covered Tang Zheng's voice. The building actually collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the sky and spread in all directions. Tang Zheng frowned. This Song Jianan was really determined. Tang Zheng had created such a big scene, but he still avoided meeting him. Shua. Suddenly, a sword light lit up in the smoke and dust. It slashed towards Tang Zheng. It was extremely sharp. Good sword technique. Tang Zheng exclaimed. He held War Spirit tightly and welcomed it. In the smoke and dust, sword light flashed in all directions. Sparks flew everywhere. Only a series of ping 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 sounds could be heard. However, the two figures could not be seen clearly. The surrounding people were all excited. Finally, someone stood up to defend against this uninvited guest. Suddenly, two figures soared into the sky from the smoke and dust and landed in front of the lake. Finally, they could see each other's appearance clearly. Tang Zheng's pupils slightly shrank. The other party was in his 30s and held a long sword in his hand. His entire body was like a sword, as if he had become one with the sword in his hand. Just now, the two of them had exchanged no less than 100 moves. Tang Zheng could clearly feel the power of the other party's sword techniques. In terms of sword techniques, it was already a rare sword technique. His sword technique was very simple and concise. It was different from Song Yu's fancy sword technique. It was somewhat similar to the wind-chasing sword technique, but it was also very different. His sword technique focused on fast attacks. Moreover, there were not many moves. Back and forth, Tang Zheng had already experienced all the moves. There were only a total of 13 moves. A set of sword techniques with a total of 13 moves was already very concise. If it was not created by a sword master, it would be impossible to create such a set of sword techniques. The other party was obviously a sword master, and his cultivation was definitely not low. Tang Zheng roughly estimated that he was probably a great master martial artist. Strange, I've never heard of such a sword master in the Song family. Tang Zheng muttered, but he couldn't help but think of Song Yu's fancy sword technique. Could it be that Song Yu's sword technique was taught by this person? However, the sword moves of the two were completely different. Let's take this person down first. Then the truth will be revealed. Tang Zheng raised his sword and attacked again. Since his opponent was using a sword, he naturally disdained to use a divine weapon like the heaven-shocking bow to fight against him. He wanted to use his sword techniques to defeat his opponent fair and square. The sword technique of the heaven-flying immortal had many changes, and they were all upright sword moves, with a terrifying aura. When Tang Zheng's wrist shook, he raised the War Soul Sword. The surface of the lake rippled, and even created a wave. Together with the unparalleled sword technique, it attacked the enemy. The opponent's expression did not change. With a stomp of his feet, he stepped on the tip of the grass and flew up. The tip of the sword touched the surface of the water, and the sword actually bent and bounced back in an instant. However, a few drops of water had already shot out from the tip of the sword like bullets. Bang! The water droplets blossomed on the War Soul Sword, and the huge force caused the War Soul Sword to buzz. A numbing feeling came from the center of his palm, showing how powerful the water droplets were. Tang Zheng shouted out, "Good," as the battle spirit sword was already in front of the opponent. With a schwa sound, the sword light was oppressive as it pierced towards the opponent's upper, middle, and lower body 3 times, all of which were aimed at the vital points. Clang, 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 clang. The 3 sword strikes were extremely fast, blocking Tang Zheng's 3 sword strikes. Furthermore, they were all sword moves that Tang Zheng had seen before. The 13 sword moves in his opponent's hands were used to perfection, causing people to exclaim from the bottom of their hearts. Tang Jing continued to attack quickly, using speed to fight speed. Not long later, there were only the two's erratic afterimages and the crisp sounds of the two swords clashing by the lake. In the end, the two of them moved the battlefield from the land to the lake. They stepped on the water surface and moved towards the center of the lake. This test was not only about sword moves, but also about overall strength. The two of them stepped on the surface of the lake, but did not fall into the water. Not long after, the two sides showed the difference. Tang Zheng's shoes were not wet at all, but his opponent's shoes were completely wet. Who was stronger and who was weaker was already obvious. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up and said with a smile, "Your cultivation is not as good as mine, but your sword technique is not bad. You are bitterly holding on, but in the end, you are not my opponent." The opponent did not say a word, and silently moved his sword. "Your sword technique is so powerful. What sect do you come from? What is your relationship with the Song family?" Tang Jing asked in a powerful voice. The opponent did not say a word, as if he was mute. Tang Jing stared at the sharp sword light, and his heart suddenly moved. There were very few sword masters in this world, and the most famous was of course the sword god. Tang Jing had seen the power of the sword god with his own eyes. If it was not for luck, he would have died at the hands of the sword god. The sword god established the sword pavilion, and there were many sword slaves in the sword pavilion. They were not weak, and their sword techniques could be considered to have many highlights. Moreover, he also had personal disciples. In the sinkhole in the Changbai mountain, he had seen the sword god's disciple with his own eyes, and it had left a deep impression on him. This person's sword technique was so powerful. Could it be that he also came from the sword pavilion, or even the sword god's disciple? "You are the sword god's disciple?" Tang Jing suddenly asked in surprise. The opponent was clearly stunned for a moment, and there was immediately a flaw in his sword technique. Obviously, Tang Jing had hit the nail on the head. Tang Jing was overjoyed. With a heaven-flying immortal, the opponent's chest was hit by the sword and fell into the lake. "You are indeed the sword god's disciple." Tang Jing was certain of this from the other party's reaction. "Where is he?" Tang Jing wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to pursue, but he found that the other party had already disappeared from the lake. "Are you playing hide and seek with me? War Soul Sword go." Tang Jing pointed his finger, and the War Soul Sword shot into the lake. At the bottom of the lake, the sword light flashed, illuminating the entire lake. The lake water surged with stormy waves, like a surging sea. Boom! A pillar of water soared into the sky, and the enemy appeared. His clothes were already dyed red with blood, and the War Soul Sword chased after him and attacked him non-stop. He reacted in a panic and was no longer as skilled as before. It was obvious that Tang Zheng's sword was not weak and had caused him quite a bit of damage. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up, and he said proudly, "Now that I've appeared, let's see where you can run to." Since the other party was the sword god's disciple, then he definitely knew something about the Azure Dragon Palace. Tang Zheng was worried that he wouldn't be able to find the Azure Dragon Palace, but the other party actually delivered it to him. Tang Zheng pounced forward, using the heaven-flying immortal sword technique, causing the enemy to retreat step by step. In the end, he retreated to the shore, and with a pu sound, he received another sword strike, causing blood to immediately flow out from his calf. Chapter 784. You are the disciple of the famous sword god. I wonder how I should address you? Tang Jing asked with a smile. Sword 13. The other party had already seen through his identity, so Sword 13 did not hide it anymore. So you're not a mute. Sword 13, 13 swords, it's very appropriate. Your sword technique is very strange, it's only 13 moves, but its power is boundless. Tang Jing praised. Sword 13 coldly snorted and said, Of course, this was created by Master. Tang Jing's eyes were filled with admiration. Although the sword god was an enemy, he had no choice but to sincerely admire his attainments in sword techniques. His disciples all had different sword techniques, but they were all created by him. Just this creativity was something that ordinary people could not compare to. A dignified disciple of the sword god actually appeared in the Song family, and Song Yu miraculously possessed a powerful sword technique. In that case, Song Yu is also a disciple of the sword god? Tang Zheng, you've gone too far. Not only did you heavily injure junior brother Song, you've even killed your way to our door. As the eldest senior brother, how can I sit idly by? Sword 13 said angrily. So you're still the eldest senior brother. I've already met your other junior brother in Changbai Mountain. I wonder how many disciples the sword god has? Master has a total of 3 disciples, each of them is Sword 8, an expert in sword techniques, and has a unique comprehension of sword techniques. Tang Jing nodded and said, so it's 3 people. The sword god even took in a villain like Song Yu as his disciple. It seems like he's only SOSO. How dare you? How can Master allow you to insult him? Sword 13 roared with a flushed face, trying to resist, but with the War Soul sword pressed against his throat, he was unable to move. Why can't the sword god be insulted? Actually, I've always wanted to find him, but I didn't know where to find him, so you ran out. This is exactly what I wanted. Tang Zheng smiled, like a big bad wolf. Sword 13's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly asked, why are you looking for Master? To inquire about the Azure Dragon Palace. However, as his direct disciple and also the eldest senior brother, you must know some things about the Azure Dragon Palace. Why don't you tell me? Azure Dragon Hall. Sword 13's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. Your reaction has already betrayed you. You definitely know about the Azure Dragon Palace. Are you going to tell me yourself, or do you want me to force you to tell me? If I do, you will definitely suffer a lot. Jian Shisan raised his neck, as if he was a brave warrior that had sacrificed himself for a cause, and he said in an awe-inspiring and fearless manner, if you want to kill me, then do as you please. You want me to reveal information about the Azure Dragon Hall? Dream on. Is that so? Ha, I have my ways even if you don't tell me. Tang Zheng was very confident. Jian Shisan was an enemy, although his integrity was respectable. Tang Jing did not plan to be merciful. Jian Shisan was a grandmaster martial artist. If he were to let the tiger return to the mountain, then there would be no end of trouble. No matter what, he could not be soft-hearted. Moreover, Sword 13 even knew the information about the Azure Dragon Palace. If Tang Jing did not take away this information, then it would be even more impossible to find the Azure Dragon Palace. Jian Shisan glared fiercely at Tang Jing. He did not believe that the other party could pry open his mouth. Tang Zheng's expression turned cold. He made a move like lightning and grabbed Jian Shisan's head. Jian Shisan exclaimed, "What are you doing?" Tang Zheng immediately activated the soul-searching technique, and the information in his mind flashed before Tang Zheng's eyes like a movie. "Let me go, my head hurts." Jian Shisan roared in a heart-wrenching manner. The soul-searching technique had a side effect, which could cause people to become retarded. However, Jian Shisan's cultivation was deep and his perseverance was outstanding. He actually resisted the side effect and did not become a fool. Jian Shisan felt something in his heart and exclaimed, "You're reading my brain." Tang Zheng looked at him in surprise. He could even feel this. A grandmaster martial artist was indeed extraordinary. Don't even think about succeeding. The light in Jian Shisan's eyes exploded as he grabbed onto the War Soul sword. The War Soul sword pierced into his throat, cutting off his windpipe. The corner of Jian Shisan's mouth revealed a complacent smile, and he was already speechless. You actually committed suicide." Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. He was truly shocked. In order to preserve the information in his mind, Jian Shisan was actually willing to give up his life. Just what kind of organization was the Azure Dragon Palace to be able to nurture such a death warrior? Jian Shisan's eyes were completely devoid of life as he fell to the ground with a loud bang. A grandmaster of a generation, a great swordsman, ended his life just like that. Tang Zheng did not have time to sigh with emotion. The more the other party did this, the more he wanted to know more about the Azure Dragon Palace. If he did not know anything about the Azure Dragon Palace, then who knows when the other party would stab him in the back, and by then, it would be too late. He hurriedly sorted out the information he had searched. Although it was only a part of it, it had already enlightened him. Jian Shisan really does know a lot about the Azure Dragon Palace. Tang Jing sighed. It turned out that the Azure Dragon Palace was an ancient organization that was created by New Era back then. It had been hundreds of years since then. When he thought of New Era, Tang Jing couldn't help but think of the matter of him expelling the cultivators. New Era could be said to be at the peak of the martial artists, and from ancient times until now, he was the only one who had accomplished such a feat. Although the cultivators were expelled, New Era was not satisfied and secretly established the Azure Dragon Palace. At the beginning, there was only the Azure Dragon Palace, and they were responsible for hunting down some of the cultivators who had escaped the net. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Palace had created a team of assassins that caused people to tremble at the mention of their name, Flying Guillotine. Many of the fish that had escaped the net had died at the hands of the Flying Guillotine, and their huge heads were hung on the city walls for public display. After several years of killing, all the cultivators in the world were finally wiped out. However, New Era did not give up. He had planned ahead and expected that there would definitely be cultivators in the future. After all, cultivators had left behind many cultivation techniques in this world. Therefore, he divided the Azure Dragon Palace into two branches, Martial Sect and Li Palace. The Martial Sect was responsible for killing the cultivators who had revived from the ashes, while the Li Palace was responsible for collecting information from all over the world. However, these two organizations were relatively independent existences. Other than a very small number of people who knew about the relationship between the two, no one else knew anything about it. As for the Azure Dragon Palace, it was completely hidden behind the scenes and only passed down in legends. Ordinary people would never be able to know anything about the Azure Dragon Palace. The master of the Azure Dragon Palace was called the Revered Lord, and even the Sword 13 did not know his true appearance. He had only seen him once from afar, and was extremely mysterious. Currently, there were a total of 4 great organizations under the Azure Dragon Palace: Martial Sect, Li Palace, Sword Pavilion, and the most mysterious Flying Guillotine. The Flying Guillotine had not appeared in the world for more than 100 years, and even the Sword 13 had only heard about it from the Sword God. However, it was said that the Flying Guillotine was the most mysterious power in the Revered Lord's hands, and every one of them had at least the cultivation of a great master martial artist. As for the exact number of people, the Sword 13 did not know, but without a doubt, how terrifying the killing power of a team formed by great master martial artists was. Immediately, Tang Jing felt a chill run down his spine. So, there was such a terrifying force hidden in the land of Huaxia. As for the exact location of the Azure Dragon Palace, Tang Jing was unable to find it. He could not help but feel extremely regretful. If he were to search through all the information in the Sword 13's mind, he would probably know even more secrets of the Azure Dragon Palace. Looking at the wide-eyed Sword 13 who had died with grievances, Tang Jing shook his head and did not pay any more attention to him. He raised his head and looked at the vast Song family, then raised his voice and shouted, "Song Jianan, Song Yu, listen up. Don't think that you can sit back and relax with the Sword God's protection. Today, if you don't come out and watch the Sword 13 die for you, I think the Sword God will be furious. There will be a day when you appear. At that time, not only me, even the Sword God will not let you off." The other servants and guards kept quiet out of fear. They looked around, but did not see the appearance of the Song Jianan grandfather and grandson. Tang Jing shook his head helplessly. No matter how he provoked them, there was nothing he could do if they were determined not to show themselves. As for the others, he did not plan to do anything. After all, he was not a bloodthirsty person. Although these people were members of the Song family, they did not deserve to die. Thus, he leaped and left the Song family as fast as lightning. In a hidden underground fortress, the backbone of the Song family gathered together in fear. Just now, the scene of Tang Jing causing a ruckus in the Song family had already been transmitted from various cameras. Seeing Tang Jing being so brave and extraordinary, and even the sword god's disciple, the Sword 13, committing suicide in the end, one could imagine the shock they received. Song Jianan stood with an ashen face, looking at Song Yu who was lying on the bed. Song Yu's body was wrapped in gauze, like a mummy. Song Yu's face was as pale as paper. Recalling the scene just now and the scene of the War Soul sword piercing his back, he could not help but tremble nonstop. This time, he was truly scared out of his wits by Tang Jing, especially when even his eldest senior brother, the Sword 13, whom he had always respected, was unable to escape from Tang Jing's hands, which made him shudder even more. The Sword 13 had practiced the sword since he was young and was extremely hardworking. At the age of 30, he had already reached the first stage of the Grandmaster stage and could be said to be a genius. Song Yu had already acknowledged the sword god as his master for more than 10 years and had always kept it a secret. Other than Song Jianan, even his father did not know. Song Yu's potential was obviously not as good as the Sword 13's, but he could still be considered one of the best among the younger generation. Due to the restrictions of the sword god, he did not display his strength in front of others, and was even treated by many people as if he did not have the strength to truss a chicken. He had always been waiting for the day when he soared into the sky, causing everyone to be shocked and their jaws to drop. However, he did not wait for this day, but instead received this huge blow. Tang Jing's speed was like a ruthless slap to Song Yu's face, causing the complacency in his heart to vanish into thin air. Eldest senior brother is dead, what should we do now? Song Yu said in shock. The other backbone of the Song family kept quiet out of fear, no one dared to answer, and all looked at Song Jianan. Song Jianan muttered to himself in silence, staring at the corpse of the Sword 13. They only saw the scene of the previous battle but did not hear the conversation between the two. But in the end, they heard Tang Jing's loud roar clearly. Chapter 785. Song Jianan's expression kept changing as he looked at the guards and servants on the screen. With so many witnesses, even if he wanted to hide it, it would be very difficult. Kill them all. Song Jianan's eyes were filled with killing intent as he roared. When the others heard this, they jumped in fright. Family head, who do we kill? All of you, get out and kill everyone outside. Don't leave a single one alive. Song Jianan said with killing intent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at him in disbelief. Song Yu's heart skipped a beat as she guessed what the family head was thinking. She immediately urged, "That's right, kill them. Then Shizhuan will only think that eldest senior brother died at Tang Jing's hands. Then all the responsibility will be placed on Tang Jing and our Song family will be able to stay out of this." The others weren't idiots and immediately understood. Their eyes also became fervent. Kill them all. Everyone cheered and jumped for joy. Song Jianan's eyes trembled as he shouted, "Then what are you still doing here? Hurry up and go." A moment later, the scene on the screen became particularly bloody. The guards and servants were completely unprepared and were all killed by the core members of the Song family. Blood dyed the ground red. Song Jianan clenched his fists, blue veins popping out. He gritted his teeth and said, "Tang Jing, I will return all of this to you in the future. I will make you beg for death." In the Yen family, Tang Jing received a great welcome. Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun were at the door to welcome him. After Tang Jing left the Song family, he decided to go to the Yen family and tell them about the demon race so that they could prepare. The news of Tang Jing killing his way to the Song family had already spread. After all, the Song family was a big family. With such a big commotion, it was impossible to hide it. As a result, the entire capital was shaken. It was like a large earthquake. No one had ever dared to challenge an entire family by himself. This was something that no one had ever dared to do. However, Tang Jing had done it. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, there was no falsehood at all. The Yen family also knew this, so when they saw Tang Jing, the father and son looked a little strange. Tang Jing's strength had already far surpassed them, and was even comparable to the Yen family. Back then, Who would have thought that Tang Zheng would be able to reach this step so quickly? No one. As a result, the two of them admired the old man Yen Potion's decision from the bottom of their hearts. Ginger was indeed spicier as it got older. To bet everything on Tang Zheng so early on, it was simply too wise, and many people were probably already extremely envious of him. It was foreseeable that after this battle, many people would take the initiative to offer their affection to Tang Zheng in an attempt to obtain his appreciation or protection. In the past, although Tang Zheng had gradually revealed his edge in the hearts of the people, it was still difficult for him to contend against the few great families. But now, it was different from the past. His edge had completely overshadowed the few great families, and he was a new and powerful force. If he did not curry favor early, then he would be an idiot. As for whether or not they would offend the Song family, many people did not care. After all, Tang Zheng's strength had already overshadowed the Song family, so what if the Song family had any objections? He still couldn't stir up any waves. Therefore, the Yen family attached great importance to Tang Zheng's initiative to visit. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two of them arrived at the guest hall together. Yen Padian had been waiting for a long time. Facing Yen Padian, Tang Zheng was very modest. Yen Padian could not hide the joy in his eyes, and took the initiative to invite Tang Zheng to sit at the seat of honor. Young Master Tang, everyone has witnessed your great generosity today. It's truly shocking. Yen Padian said emotionally. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I won't be merciful. Tang Zheng said resolutely. Yen Padian nodded his head. Young heroes, it should be so. Song family has been jumping around a lot recently. After this battle, they can stop for a while. It's even better if they don't stop. Then they won't be cowards and I can find them. Tang Zheng said hatefully. This time, Song Jianan did not come out, but let Sword 13 fight alone. In the end, Sword 13 died, but they still did not come out. They really are bastards. Hiding and not coming out? Yen Padian asked suspiciously. Are you saying that old man Song Jianan did not appear, and instead let Sword 13 fight? That's right. The three people from the Yen family looked at each other with strange expressions. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, Is there something wrong? Yen Luyun took a deep breath and interrupted. Young Master Tang, the rumors outside are completely different from this. Rumor has it that after a great battle, not only did you kill Sword 13, you also killed over 100 people from the Song family. The Song family can be said to be flowing with blood like a river, and corpses everywhere. What? Tang Zheng jumped up from the sofa. Calm down. Seeing his big reaction, Yen Padian hurriedly advised. How could Tang Zheng not be shocked? This was too different from the truth. Song family's intentions are sinister, to actually spread such an outrageous lie. Lies, isn't this true? The three people from the Yen family asked suspiciously. Tang Zheng's expression turned cold and said, Of course it's not true, only Sword 13 died, and it was suicide. Some of the other guards were only injured by me, and did not die. How could I have killed everyone? But the Song family's blood flowed like a river, and corpses were everywhere. All of the guards and servants were dead. Many people are saying that you are actually so cruel. Yen Luyun said. Cruel? Tang Zheng was unable to restrain his anger, and laughed in anger. He did not kill a single person, but he was said to be cruel, and the Song family relied on their power to bully others. How many people died in their hands? Yen Padian hit the nail on the head. Since the rumors are far from the truth, then there must be something fishy going on. Then who killed these people? A thief calling out to catch a thief. Other than Song Jianan, who else could it be? Tang Zheng sneered. Why did he kill so many people? Tang Zheng had an idea and said, I know, this is a framing, eliminating all the witnesses, and then pushing all of this onto me. Otherwise, if outsiders hear that the Song family is hiding and not coming out, wouldn't that be a joke to the world? Now, they have transferred a lot of their anger to me, while the Song family has played the role of a victim. More importantly, all of this is probably related to the death of Sword 13. Tang Zheng was very smart, and immediately saw through the other party's scheme. This kind of framing trick was not clever, and one did not need to be too smart to see through it with a single glance. The other three people's hearts stirred, and they also guessed the reason and said, "You're saying that those people were all killed by the Song family themselves and then blamed it on you, causing the sword god to vent his anger on you, and the Song family to completely disassociate themselves from it?" Tang Jing nodded and said with a bit of a chill in his heart, "So you can see how sinister and cunning the Song family is, and how unscrupulous they are." Yen Luyun sucked in a cold breath and said, "To actually do such a thing to their own people, they are truly insane." "Tang Jing, your guess should be correct." Yen Padian said in a deep voice, "The Song family has never been a benevolent dog generation. Back then, their ancestors relied on their ruthlessness and unscrupulous methods to make their fortune. It seems that their descendants have also inherited this point. But this is too cruel. He even did such a vicious thing to his own people and killed so many people." Yen Luyun said with lingering fear. Tang Jing, on the other hand, was not surprised at all. He had even seen people who sacrificed tens of thousands of lives to activate the Mountain River Blood Sacrifice Array, so the Song family was nothing compared to them. Although the Song family is vicious, they have made contact with the Sword God, which is already powerful enough. The Sword God will definitely listen to their lies and aim his hair at you, young Master Tang. The Sword God is not like Song Jianan, so it will be troublesome when the time comes. Yen Qishan said worriedly. Yen Padian and Yen Luyun also nodded in agreement. The Sword God was too mysterious to them, so they naturally couldn't help but respect him. "You don't have to worry. I've already clashed head-on with the Sword God. He's not that scary." Tang Jing said indifferently, but he did not say the second half. He was not worried about the Sword God, but the Azure Dragon Palace behind him. When the three people from the Yen family heard this, they were once again greatly shocked. Tang Jing had actually exchanged blows with the Sword God. Seeing him make such a solemn vow, the three of them had complicated feelings and said, "But we can't let our guard down." Now, everyone knows that the Song family and the Sword God have an extraordinary relationship, and Song Yu is even the disciple of the Sword God. Although the Song family has gone through this great calamity and lost all face, no one dares to underestimate him, and the Song family will not fall immediately. The Song family revealing this information can be said to be killing two birds with one stone. They are truly old foxes. In the future, when they have nowhere to hide, I will definitely take care of them. Let's get down to business first. This time, I am here to warn you of one thing. The demon clan has already returned. Tang Jing briefly told them about how the 100 Transformations Star Lord had used the Mountain River Blood Sacrifice Array to summon the demon clan back, as well as the country's countermeasures. The three of them were stunned at the same time. They did not dare to underestimate this news and hurriedly asked about the details of the demon clan. Tang Jing told them everything he knew and answered them in detail. With the return of the demon clan, this world is about to suffer a calamity. Tang Jing, your mission is here. A clear voice came from outside the living room. Yen Qingyi was still wearing a green Taoist robe, with her hair tied up in a bun and a hairpin inserted into it. She leisurely walked over without any makeup. My mission? What mission? Tang Jing did not understand. The other three also looked at her in confusion. Yen Qingyi walked straight in front of Tang Jing and said, "The demon clan will destroy this world, and your mission is to turn the tide, save the people from hanging upside down, and return peace to the world, and return peace to the people." Tang Jing was stunned. "You're the savior," Yen Qingyi added in a resolute tone. Yen Potion's expression was bewildered. Didn't Yen Qingyi say that he would not tell Tang Jing about this prophecy back then? He was afraid that it would interfere with his decisions, so why did he suddenly say it out loud today? Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had never thought of being a savior, and he did not have such a high level of awareness. Furthermore, it was not that easy to be a savior. A savior often meant a great sacrifice. Wasn't that how it played in movies? Either the death of a loved one or the death of a loved one. In short, the savior seemed to be glorious, but in reality, there was a pain that outsiders did not know about. Chapter 786. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Stop joking, I'm not some savior. You are. Yan Qingyi said stubbornly, this is your fate. My fate is my own business. I don't even know, so how do you know? Because I saw your fate. Tang Zheng looked at her strangely and said, when did you change your profession to become a fortune teller? Qingyi, don't spout nonsense. Seeing that Tang Zheng still did not believe him, Yan Patian immediately stopped him. Yan Qingyi, on the other hand, was very persistent. She bent down and almost touched Tang Zheng's face, and the two pairs of eyes were very close. Observing Yan Qingyi at such a close distance, it had to be said that she was truly beautiful. She was naturally beautiful without any makeup, and her loose Taoist robe was unable to completely conceal her alluring expression. Especially her towering breasts, which were especially eye-catching when she bent down. Yan Qingyi did not notice Tang Zheng's impudent gaze from the corner of her eyes at all. She stared straight at him and said, I'm not spouting nonsense. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not. This is your fate. You are the savior. His words were so convincing that after Tang Zheng was stunned, he could no longer treat it lightly. He didn't have much interaction with Yan Qingyi, but he knew that this person was not someone who would speak without thinking. Why was she so stubborn and determined that he was the savior of the world? What was the reason? Tang Zheng slowly restrained his expression and asked, you said that you saw my fate. How can fate see it? I can see what will happen in the future. Yan Qingyi did not hide anything. Tang Zheng's pupils dilated. He had never heard of such a thing. It could be said to be a miracle, but there were too many things in the world that could not be explained by science, and they might not all be fake. After all, even cultivators had appeared, so everything was possible. Prophecy! Tang Zheng exclaimed. Yan Qingyi nodded, more or less. This was the first time she had admitted her ability to anyone other than her family. Tang Zheng couldn't help but look at Yan Qingyi again. She was neither a martial artist nor a cultivator. She didn't even have the strength to truss up a chicken, yet she knew how to use the divination technique. How do you know prophecy? I don't know, but I just can. My prophecy about you is especially strong. Yan Qingyi said. But maybe it's because you're the savior. Hearing her mention the savior again, Tang Zheng's expression became solemn. Does the prophecy really show that I will be the savior? Yan Qingyi nodded seriously. Tang Zheng's expression was unprecedentedly solemn as he said, I never wanted to be a savior. What else is there in your prophecy? Why is this world in danger of destruction? Is it because of the demons? That's right. When the demon army arrived, the people were plunged into an abyss of misery and suffering. This world was on the verge of collapse, but it was you alone who turned the tide. When did that happen? Yan Qingyi shook his head. My prophecy technique is not that accurate, I can only make a rough prediction. Seeing that he had already revealed it, Yan Patian asked, Qingyi, you didn't mention the demon clan and the upcoming crisis. Could it be that you have made a new discovery recently? Yes, there has been a major breakthrough in the divination technique recently. The scene has become clearer. Tang Zheng stood alone at the peak of the towering mountain, and at the foot of the mountain was the demon clan army. Tang Zheng fought alone, and in the end, the demon clan army was defeated, and this world was lucky. I fought against the demon clan army by myself, and I won in the end. Tang Zheng exclaimed in disbelief. This was truly beyond his imagination. With his cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to do this. Yan Qingyi said with incomparable certainty, yes, as for the specific process, I am not clear, but in the end, you were victorious, standing at the peak of the mountain, and at the foot of the mountain were the remnants of the defeated demon clan army. What do you mean by not knowing the specific process? My prophecy technique is just some intermittent scenes. Yan Qingyi said regretfully. Then can you describe that mountain in detail? Mountain? Yan Qingyi asked curiously, Alright, this mountain is very majestic, as if it is connected to the sky. It is covered in white snow, and people feel very small in front of this mountain. Is that it? Tang Zheng asked in disappointment. There were too many high mountains and steep ridges in the land of Huaxia. This description was too general, and many famous mountains were in line with it. Yan Qingyi frowned and started to think hard. The others all looked at her. The information expressed in this conversation was too much. In the past, the Yan family had only heard that Tang Zheng would be the savior of the world, but they did not know the specific details. This time, they heard that the demon army had besieged Tang Zheng, and in the end, Tang Zheng was victorious, so they also wanted to know more specific details. After a while, Yan Qingyi raised her head and said, "There is a very strange place in one of the scenes." "Oh, what strange place?" "There seems to be a ladder on the mountain peak, extending into the sky, leading to who knows where." Yan Qingyi said doubtfully. There was a ladder on the mountain peak, extending into the sky. No matter how you looked at it, it was extremely strange and did not conform to common sense. So much so that she had subconsciously overlooked it. If not for Tang Zheng's repeated questioning, she would not have thought of this scene. Tang Zheng became excited, his breathing rushed as he cried out in alarm, "Celestial stairway, you are describing the celestial stairway." He finally knew where this mountain was. Mount Buzhou. In the end, he actually went to Mount Buzhou again and rebuilt the celestial stairway. Since the celestial stairway was built, the sky beyond heaven was naturally not an untouchable place. The sky beyond heaven was open to other righteous cultivators. In the end, you saw me standing on the mountain peak, while the demon army fled in all directions. Did you see anyone else? Since Yan Qingyi saw the demon army, she should have seen the righteous cultivators come down from the celestial stairway and defeat the ancestor of Mo's army. This was the most likely thing. "No," Yan Qingyi said. "Try to recall again, was there anyone else?" "There really wasn't," Yan Qingyi said firmly. Tang Zheng's brows tightly knitted together again. This did not conform to common sense at all. Without the help of the righteous cultivators, how could he let the demon army escape? One question after another drilled into his mind, causing him to be at a loss for a while, unable to find an answer. Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, the others cautiously asked, "Tang Zheng, what's the problem?" Tang Zheng slowly shook his head and said, "I'll tell you the truth. With my cultivation, it is not enough to fight the demon army alone. Since the other party chased to the foot of the mountain, it means that I have no way to deal with it." And she said that I defeated the demon army with my own strength. This matter is contradictory. There is no reasonable explanation. But my prophecy is not wrong, Yan Qingyi said firmly, obviously very confident in her ability. Then it can only be said that your prophecy is not detailed. There must be something missing. Moreover, just based on these few scenes, you can't say that this is the end of the world, right? A light flashed in Tang Zheng's mind. She said with certainty that he was the savior, so it must be that the world was facing a disaster. But with the demon race's arrival, this world might not be a disaster, but there would be many people dying, the old order would collapse, and a new order would be established. I dare to say that this is the end of the world. Of course there is a basis. The whole world is covered in black clouds, the waves are monstrous, and the earth is split open. It is a scene of death, as if in the next second, the world will collapse. Yan Qingyi said with lingering fear. Even if she recalled that scene, she still had lingering fear, and a trace of cold air rose from the bottom of her heart. Then it is similar to the scene in the movies. It really is the end of the world. Tang Zheng closed his eyes, imagining that scene, making it difficult to breathe and suffocate. Since you said that the world is about to be destroyed, then what is the use of the demon race besieging me? Tang Zheng asked puzzledly. Yan Qingyi was speechless. In the end she blankly shook her head. I also don't know. Since you said that I am the savior, then in the end, did I succeed in saving the world? Of course. The clouds dispersed, the waves calmed down, the earth also stopped shaking, and the world was once again filled with vitality. Yen Qingyi recalled that scene, feeling as if she had survived a disaster, and the corners of her mouth involuntarily rose into a smile. Tang Jing became more and more confused. He could not imagine what was going on. Where did he have the ability to save the world? Why did the world become like the end of the world? Tang Jing sighed, unwillingly asking. Yen Qingyi shook her head in shame. I don't know. But thinking about it, it should be caused by the demon race. Tang Jing gave a non-committal laugh, saying, Your prophecy is too vague. There are many places without details. The key is that it does not make sense. Actually, I did not intend to tell you this at the beginning. I did not want to disrupt your train of thought and steps. But recently my prophecy of the end of the world has become more and more detailed. Those few scenes have only become clear recently, and just now I heard you mention the return of the demon race, so I decided to tell you as soon as possible, hoping that it will be of some help to you, so that you will not take the wrong path. Yen Qingyi said, The survival of humanity, and even the survival of the world, depends on you alone. Although you do not understand the deeper meaning of this right now, and even think that there are many places that are too contradictory, I firmly believe that this is just because the time is not right. Once the time is right, everything will follow naturally, and you will not have any more doubts. Seeing her solemn vow, Tang Jing did not know whether to be happy that he was the savior, or cry that his life was so bitter, to actually be the savior. It was not that easy to be the savior. This matter is too far away. We should focus on the present. Tang Jing shook his head, temporarily dispelling these messy thoughts. You are the savior, you make the decisions. Yen Qingyi spread out her hands. You have done so much for humanity. Our Yen family will definitely not stay out of this matter. If you have any orders, we will definitely not refuse. Chapter 787. Since the Yen family was so confident, Tang Jing did not hold back and directly said, All of you, keep a close eye on the Song family. Once Song Jianan or Song Yu appear, inform me, and even try your best to stall them and wait for me to deal with them. Since the Song family had framed him, he would not be courteous and directly use the power of the Yen family to find them even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. If he could follow the vine and find clues about the Sword Pavilion or the Azure Dragon Palace, then he would have profited. Yen Patin did not hesitate at all, and immediately nodded in agreement. Tang Jing, don't worry, the Song family has been coveting the Yen family for a long time. If I don't take care of him, I won't be able to sit still. Although the Yen family is weak, I still want to do my best. I wonder if there's anything we can do to help with the matter of the demon clan? Tang Jing had originally only come to remind the other party about the return of the demon clan. Since the other party had taken the initiative to volunteer, he could not directly reject them and destroy their enthusiasm. Although the officials are confident in dealing with the demon clan is not an ordinary person after all. Send people to Dianan, that is the lair of the 100 Transformations Star Lord. If the demon clan returns, they will definitely go there. I want to see if there are any fish that escape the net. Tang Jing muttered to himself. Don't worry, we will immediately send people to Dianan. We will not let go of any clues. You, Bian, we don't have to fight him head-on. There are many experts in the demon clan, so fighting him head-on is not the best strategy. Tang Jing warned. He did not wish for anything to happen to the people of the Yen family because of him. Regarding this relationship, the members of the Yen family were all moved. This was a true and righteous person. In addition, I would like to discuss more with Miss Yen about the prophecy technique. Tang Jing was extremely curious about the prophecy technique and wanted to ask for advice. Shall we return to my Taoist temple? How could Tang Jing refuse Yen Qingyi's warm invitation? After bidding farewell to the rest of the Yen family, Tang Jing and Yen Qingyi returned to the Taoist temple. This Taoist temple was specially built for Yen Qingyi. It was very small, but it was built with great care. She was the only one in the temple. Although she had seen through the world of mortals, she was different from ordinary Taoist priests. She cultivated alone, accompanied by the green lamp and the ancient book. She did not interact with other Taoists. Therefore, the Tao she cultivated was completely different from other Taoists. Green tea, spring water, green lanterns, Taoist temple, everything exuded an otherworldly charm. Immersed in it, Tang Zheng's heart felt exceptionally tranquil, as if he had forgotten the troubles of the world. He slowly closed his eyes as if his soul was about to leave his body. Yan Qingyi quietly looked at him. Although she was not a cultivator or a martial artist, her perception was not weak. She could clearly feel the change in Tang Zheng's aura. Seeing Tang Zheng open his eyes again, Yan Qingyi praised, "You are fated with the Tao." Tang Zheng smiled and said, "What is the Tao?" "The Tao is in your heart. Once you understand it, you will naturally know." Yan Qingyi said. Tang Zheng shook his head. He did not want to discuss this vague topic with her. He went straight to the point and asked, "Why do you know the prophecy technique?" "Because this is my Tao. Once I understand it, I will naturally know the prophecy technique." Yan Qingyi calmly said. Tang Zheng frowned. These words were too mysterious. Once you understand the Tao in your heart, you will know the prophecy technique. No matter what, he could not understand the reason behind it. The key was that she was not a martial artist or a cultivator. Her body did not have inner strength or qi. It did not make sense. Could it be that once I understand the Tao in my heart, I will also know the prophecy technique? Tang Zheng asked. Yan Qingyi shook her head. That is not true. There are thousands and thousands of Taoists in the world. After understanding the Tao, they will all be different. Perhaps you will not know anything. Perhaps you will have a mysterious ability. You cannot generalize. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. This was a theory that he had never heard before. Even Tian Chanzi had never mentioned it before. This was a completely new field. Could it be that not cultivating and just blindly comprehending the Tao would allow one to have supernatural powers? But with a living example in front of him, he had no choice but to believe it. Then how can one comprehend the Tao? Tang Zheng asked again. Yan Qingyi closed her eyes and spread out her hands. She faintly said, "If you are sincere, you will naturally be able to comprehend the Tao." Tang Zheng speechlessly rolled his eyes. This was much more mysterious than cultivating. There was not a single ancient book or book to learn from. Then how do you comprehend the Tao? Familiarizing myself with the 3,000 ancient books of the way and sincerely comprehending the Tao. Familiarizing yourself with the ancient books? Tang Zheng frowned. There are countless Taoist temples and Taoist priests in the world. Why do they not comprehend the Tao? Their hearts are not sincere. Yan Qingyi opened her eyes and lightly said. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. There was no way to continue this conversation. There was nothing substantial. It was all illusory Tao. He could not help but remember the heavenly Tao that the Empyrean fairy had once mentioned. Qin Shi Huang had killed too many people and was punished by the heavenly Tao. As a result, he was unable to obtain immortality. Then what exactly was the heavenly Tao? What is the heavenly Tao? Tang Zheng directly asked. Heavenly Tao? Yan Qingyi's expression became particularly solemn. The heavenly Tao is the ultimate Tao. I cannot comprehend it, so I do not know. Ultimate Tao. Tang Zheng sucked in a breath of cold air. Then can anyone comprehend the heavenly Tao? Yan Qingyi thought for a moment and nodded. Naturally. Then what kind of abilities will one obtain after comprehending the heavenly Tao? Tang Zheng asked curiously. I do not know. Yan Qingyi shook her head. Tang Zheng pursed his lips. She did not know anything. There was no way he could continue this discussion. He wanted to know more practical things. Then can you predict more information about the end of the world? Yan Qingyi regretfully said, that is all for now. All right, since there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. If there is any further information about the end of the world, I hope you can tell me. Of course. Goodbye. Tang Zheng stood up and extended his hand. Yan Qingyi grasped his hand. Just as she was about to say goodbye, her eyes suddenly lit up and her expression greatly changed. Tang Zheng saw that she was not letting go of his hand and her expression was strange. He could not help but ask, "What's wrong?" Yan Qingyi did not answer. It was as if she was stunned. What's going on? Tang Zheng was confused. Isn't it just a handshake? Why isn't she letting go? Wait, something mysterious seems to be happening to her body? Just as he was at a loss, Yen Qingyi finally let go of his hand. She closed her eyes and softly fell to the ground. Be careful! Tang Jing shouted and hurriedly hugged her waist. Under the large robe, her waist was extremely slender and elastic. Yen Qingyi fell into his arms. Wake up, what's wrong? Tang Jing called out in concern. Yen Qingyi's eyelids twitched. She finally opened her eyes with difficulty and saw Tang Jing's anxious face. His face was right in front of hers, and the two of them were in a very intimate position. She was lying in Tang Jing's arms while Tang Jing was hugging her waist. No matter how one looked at it, they looked like an intimate couple. I am fine, Yen Qingyi weakly said. Don't move. I'll take you to the bed and lie down for a while. Tang Jing had already seen that behind the living room was a bedroom. Without any explanation, he picked her up and walked straight to the bedroom. When he walked in, he could not help but be surprised. The bedroom was not big and was very simple. There was only a hard wooden bed and a cabinet. The walls were bare without any decorations. It was extremely simple. This was thousands of miles away from an ordinary woman's room. It was extremely inconsistent with her identity as the young miss of the Yen family. Yen Qingyi was very weak. Although she felt that it was not appropriate for him to carry her like this, she could not struggle and refuse. Tang Jing gently placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He said, Don't talk. Rest for a while. Yen Qingyi was helpless and could only close her eyes. Tang Jing sat by the bed and curiously looked at her. Her face without any makeup was pale and weak. He really could not understand why she suddenly fainted. Could it be? He immediately recalled the scene just now. She had become like this after holding his hand. Could it be because she held his hand? Tang Jing was dumbfounded. He raised his hand and looked at it. There was nothing strange. When did his hand have this kind of magic? It could even cause people to faint? No, he had held hands with many people. He had even had intimate contact with Feng Shishir and the others. There was absolutely no such situation. But if it was not a handshake, then what caused it? He could not figure it out. He could only wait for her to rest to find out the answer. He stared at her without blinking. Unknowingly, he was attracted by her appearance. What happened to her body that made her so different from ordinary women? Coarse hemp clothes, a temple, a woman alone. With all these companions, how could she endure such loneliness? Tang Jing knew that he was a person who could endure loneliness, but he could not imagine what kind of life this was. If it were him, he would have collapsed long ago. In addition, her so-called Tao was also very mysterious, causing Tang Jing to be enlightened as if he had opened a door to a new world. It was just that behind the door was a thick fog, so he could not see clearly what kind of scenery it was. Outside the window, it was completely dark. In the night, the sound of frogs and insects could be heard, making the temple even more peaceful. As if his heart had sensed something, he simply began to circulate his energy and cultivate. During the day, he had absorbed Song Jianan's energy and directly advanced to the gold level 3rd grade. The vast amount of energy was converted into true qi and stored in his body. He silently experienced the mysteries of the gold core 3rd grade, consolidating his cultivation. He gradually became one with the quiet environment. Unknowingly, he was completely immersed in the wonderful state of cultivation. After an unknown amount of time, Tang Jing opened his eyes. His cultivation had been completely consolidated and his true qi was much purer. But a face was close at hand looking at him. Seeing him open his eyes, she quickly retreated. She hid her embarrassment and lightly said, "You're awake." Looking at Yen Qingyi, Tang Jing was overjoyed and said, "You're also awake? How do you feel now?" "I'm much better. Thank you for just now." Yen Qingyi said, "It's nothing. What happened to you just now? Are you not feeling well?" Tang Jing asked with concern. Chapter 788. Yen Qingyi's expression was complicated as she stared at Tang Jing, as if she wanted to see through every pore on his face. Previously, when I held your hand, an image suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. Tang Zheng's heart moved as he said in surprise, "You mean the prophecy technique worked again?" Yan Qingyi nodded. "It seems that when I held your hand, the prophecy technique worked and I saw a new image." "What image?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. "Do you still remember the stone stairs at the top of the mountain?" "Of course I remember." That stone stairs seemed to lead to the sky and there seemed to be something at the end of the stairs. It was very blurry and I couldn't see clearly, but the aura was very frightening. Even if I only saw an image, I still felt a kind of fear from the depths of my soul. Yan Qingyi said worriedly. "There was something at the end of the stairs and it made her so afraid?" Tang Zheng was incredulous as his eyes widened. The other end of the stairs was the sky beyond heaven. Didn't he build the stairs to guide the righteous cultivators back? What was so scary about the righteous cultivators? Try to recall again and see if you can see clearly what is at the end of the stairs. Tang Zheng continued to ask. Yan Qingyi was regretful as she shook her head. "I already tried, but I couldn't see clearly. It was very blurry, but the aura was very frightening." Could it be that it was some powerful cultivator in the sky beyond heaven that gave her this illusion? Tang Zheng muttered to himself. "Why don't we shake hands again and see if you can see more clearly?" Tang Zheng suggested. Yan Qingyi was restless and said, "I can try." Tang Zheng thought of her weak appearance and hurriedly asked, "Do you always have such a strong reaction when you use the prophecy technique?" "Yes, using the prophecy technique consumes a lot of energy. After it ends, one will be exhausted and will almost faint. But I will be fine after resting for a while." "Then it's been hard on you." The two of them held hands again. Yan Qingyi's hand was slender, small, and a little cold. It was completely wrapped up by Tang Zheng's warm big palm. The two pairs of eyes stared at each other, waiting for the moment when the prophecy would take effect. As time passed, the air seemed to have frozen. Everything was silent, and Yan Qingyi did not react at all. "How is it?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. Yan Qingyi shook her head sadly. "It didn't work." "Why? Didn't it work just now?" Tang Zheng was also very disappointed. "I don't know either. The prophecy technique is triggered by chance and is not completely under my control. However, in the past, the prophecy technique was only activated when I was meditating alone. It has never been activated in front of others, let alone in contact with others. In other words, what happened just now was an accident, or rather, it had something to do with Tang Zheng." However, even after exhausting a lot of brain cells, the two of them still couldn't figure out the reason. Both of them felt that it was a pity. If they could see a few more scenes, perhaps the situation of the apocalypse and the end of the stairway to heaven would be clearer. The two of them unconsciously held hands. When Tang Zheng noticed, his heart couldn't help but tremble. It was really impolite to hold a woman's hand like this, especially when the other party was a Taoist nun. He pretended to be calm and let go of her hand without a trace. "It's late, then I'll take my leave first." "Do you know the situation of the Tree of Life recently?" Yan Qingyi suddenly asked. "I don't know why. When I was under the Tree of Life before, the prophecy technique played a greater role, so I want to go to the Tree of Life again to see if I can find anything new." Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. "Is that so?" "Yes, but the Tree of Life is protected by your array, so I can't get close." "That's not a big problem." In order to prevent the dragon group from researching the Tree of Life, Tang Zheng had used the energy of the Heaven-Earth Mystic Stone and the Universal 8 Desolation Array to protect it. "I'll tell you a way to safely pass through the Universal 8 Desolation Array and you'll be able to reach the Tree of Life. I hope your prophecy technique can make a new discovery." Yan Qingyi's eyes lit up. "That's great." Tang Zheng told her the trick of the Universal 8 Desolation Array and she committed it to memory. In the end, Tang Zheng said goodbye and left. When he returned home, he found that Fang Shishir was still waiting for him in the living room. Seeing him come back, she welcomed him with a smile and asked like a little wife, "You're back so late, have you eaten?" Tang Zheng held her hand with a smile and said, "I have." "It's so late, why aren't you resting? Are they all asleep?" "They all went back to their rooms to rest. Since I can't sleep, I might as well wait for you to come back. Fang Shishir said with a gentle face. Tang Zheng's heart warmed. This feeling was like a husband who had worked hard outside for a day and came home to see his beautiful wife. He couldn't help but kiss her forehead. Fang Shishir's face turned red and she quickly dodged. Be careful not to let others see. No one will see. Fang Shishir glared at him and said, Sit down, I have something to talk to you about. The two sat down on the sofa and Tang Zheng held her waist. She struggled a few times but couldn't break free, so she fulfilled his wish. Behave, don't touch me. Fang Shishir said in a low voice as she slapped his naughty hands. Don't you have something to do? Of course I have something to do. I came back like this and didn't have time to tell mom and dad. If they find out, they will be very sad. Fang Shishir said with a sad expression. Studying abroad was a dream for the former Fang Shishir since she was young. Similarly, it was also her parents' dream. But now, in less than a year, she was forced to come back. How to explain this to her parents was a headache for her. Tang Zheng was so busy that he forgot about this matter. He said, Just say that you don't like living abroad and want to come back. But where will I go if I come back? Don't tell me I have to repeat my studies and take the college entrance exam? Fang Shishir said with disappointment. Tang Zheng rejected without hesitation. Of course not. Then where will I go to school? Don't tell me I don't have to go to school? If I don't go to school, what can I do? Her mind was not as open as Tang Zheng's. She still prioritized her studies. Even if she was a cultivator, she could not immediately give up her identity as a student. Tang Zheng scratched his head. This was indeed a problem. He thought for a while and said, I have an idea. Why don't you come with me to Enchanting University? Is this okay? If I say it's okay, then it's okay. Tang Zheng knew so many important people and even met the chief. If he couldn't do this, then he would be doing too poorly. Seeing him make a solemn vow, Fang Shishir's worry turned into joy. She said, That's great. As she said this, she could not help but kiss Tang Zheng's face. Then, like a thief, she looked around as if she was afraid that other people would see her. Seeing this, Tang Zheng could not help but laugh mischievously. Why are you acting so sneakily when it's an open and above-board matter, like a thief? Fang Shishir rolled her eyes at him and rebuked him. If other beauties see you, do you think you'll have a good time? I'm thinking for you. A dog biting Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate good intentions. Tang Zheng was speechless and quickly nodded. My Shishir is the best. Come, give me another kiss. No, rogue. Fang Shishir quickly dodged, but how could she avoid Tang Zheng's evil claws? She was fiercely kissed again. Moreover, it was a French kiss. Fang Shishir's cheeks were bright red. Hurry up and do your business. Don't be a rogue or I'll ignore you. Fang Shishir fiercely twisted Tang Zheng's waist and urged him. Okay, I'll make a call right away. Tang Zheng surrendered. If he wanted to enter Enchanting University, he could only go through the official channels. He could only ask Su Yingtian for help. After Su Yingtian received the call and heard the news, he readily agreed. For ordinary people, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. For people with high positions like them, it was only a matter of a word. Tang Zheng, take advantage of the free time in these 2 days to finish everything. I estimate that we'll be leaving in 2 days. Su Yingtian urged. There's news so soon? Anyway, it's almost done. Now that we're gathering the strength of the entire country, of course the efficiency is high. Are we going to the East Sea to intercept them? Yes. Okay, then I'll wait for your news. Tang Zheng's face could not help but become serious. This time, he was not confident in confronting the demons. He must make his strength reach the absolute peak. Seeing Tang Zheng's dignified expression, Fang Shishir worriedly asked, What's wrong? In 2 days I will leave for the east. Maybe your master Tianchanzi is there. The demons may have returned. I will cooperate with the government to stop them. That's too dangerous. Fang Shishir's heart trembled and said. Tang Zheng stroked her hair and smiled confidently. Your boyfriend is so powerful. How can there be danger? Don't worry. I'll go with you. No. You can't. You stay in Yanjing. If anything happens, stay by Fu Yao's side. She will protect all of you. Tang Jing warned without giving him any chance to explain. Good girl, I won't be gone for long. I'll get back to you soon. Fang Shishi's eyes could not help but redden. You're risking your life outside. How can I not worry? But I can't help you. I'm so useless. Silly girl, isn't a man's responsibility to protect the woman he loves? If I'm here and you have to fight, then I'll be a failure. Promise me you'll come back. Of course. Pinky promise. Fang Shishi said with reddened eyes. It's late. Let's go to sleep. After Pinky promise, Fang Shishi suddenly said shyly. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment before he reacted and cheered in a low voice. Oh, good. My Shishi is so understanding. I'm being merciful because you're leaving. Otherwise, I won't let you off so easily. Let me tell you, be quiet later. Don't let them hear. Chapter 789. Lying on the bed was a graceful figure. When she heard the sound of the door opening, she immediately opened her eyes and sat up. When she saw Tang Jing carrying Fang Shishi, her eyes flashed with embarrassment as she stood there in a daze. Tang Jing seemed to have been immobilized as he stared dumbfoundedly at the person on the bed, Marshall. Why was she lying on his bed? Of course she could lie down, but the key was in front of Fang Shishi. This time, boom! Tang Jing felt as if his mind had exploded. He was at a loss for what to do. Fang Shishi was stunned for a few seconds as she continued to lie in Tang Jing's embrace, staring straight at Marshall. The two women's eyes were burning as they stared at each other, as if the flames of war could ignite at any moment. Marshall. Tang Jing finally broke, but before he could finish, Marshall had already gotten off the bed in a panic and awkwardly said, I have something to talk to you about. I accidentally fell asleep. I'll go back to my room first. After she finished speaking, she rushed out of the room without looking back. Put me down. Fang Shishi fiercely pinched Tang Jing and said, I don't know what's going on either. Tang Jing said innocently. Playboy. Fang Shishi fiercely glared at him and angrily returned to her room, leaving Tang Jing to stare at her helplessly. F***, what the hell is this? I knew that living together would cause problems. It's only been 2 days. Tang Jing scratched his head and angrily muttered. A romance that was about to begin ended because of this small interlude. Tang Jing could not sleep, but there was nothing he could do. The next day, Fang Shishi and Marshall sat together as if nothing had happened. Outsiders could not see any clues, causing Tang Jing to sigh at how good this woman was at acting. However, it was fortunate that the two of them did not fight. Tang Jing secretly rejoiced. After breakfast, he brought Fang Shishi to Yenching University. Su Yingtian had already arranged everything and Fang Shishi successfully entered the university. She chose her original major and continued to focus on her studies. The simple and boring days continued for 2 days before Su Yingtian's call came. They were going out to sea. A military vehicle stopped in front of Tang Jing. A small soldier hurriedly ran down and saluted. Chief Su sent me to pick you up. Tang Jing stared blankly for a moment before laughing involuntarily. He did not correct him and walked into the car. The little soldier respectfully closed the car door and was about to drive off when a person rushed over like the wind. He opened the car door and sat beside Tang Jing. The little soldier was shocked and shouted, Who is it? Just as he was about to take action, Tang Jing hurriedly stopped him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Marshall beside him and said, Didn't I tell you to stay at home? Wherever you go, I'll go too. Wu Dang still refused to budge. There will be danger. Just now, he had spent a lot of effort to persuade the women to stay at home. He didn't expect that the moment he left, Marshall would catch up to him. Marshall stared straight at him and said, It's precisely because there's danger that I have to follow you. Tang Jing felt warmth in his heart, but he also felt helpless. But it's too dangerous. I'm not afraid of danger. Since I was young, I existed to deal with danger. Marshall said without retreating an inch. Their eyes met, and Tang Jing saw an incomparable determination in her eyes. It was obvious that there was no way to shake her decision. He couldn't help but say helplessly, "Why are you so stubborn?" Wu raised her snow-white neck and said, "I'm just stubborn." "All right, I'm afraid of you, but I have to make it clear in advance. When the time comes, you can't be stubborn and act according to the circumstances. Do you understand?" Tang Jing warned. Wu Dang's tense face finally revealed a trace of a smile as he said, "Understood." The two of them had already partnered up many times and could be considered to have a tacit understanding. Furthermore, Marshall's cultivation was not low, so Tang Jing had changed to fulfill his wish. "Little comrade, hurry up and drive." Tang Jing was deeply afraid that the others would chase after him. It wouldn't be good to bring an army of women with him. The military vehicle whistled away and finally drove into a heavily guarded military airport in the suburbs. Many fully armed soldiers were entering a huge military transport plane. The military vehicle stopped at the entrance of the cabin, and Su Yingtian quickly walked over to welcome him. "You're finally here. Hurry up and get on the plane. We're about to take off." Tang Jing nodded and boarded the plane with Marshall. The military transport plane was not as comfortable as the civil airliner. On a few rows of crude chairs sat imposing soldiers. These people are not weak. They are the elites of the army. Tang Jing muttered to himself. The two of them were dressed casually, especially since Marshall was a woman. They did not fit in with the surrounding environment and attracted the attention of many people. However, the soldiers were strictly disciplined and no one came to ask about it. However, Tang Jing saw an acquaintance, Kai Guibin. When Kai Guibin left the Dragon Group, Tang Jing recommended him to Su Yingtian. He never thought that they would meet again today. Kai Guibin was very enthusiastic. He hurriedly went up to Tang Jing and shook hands with him. He said familiarly, "Tang Jing, a scholar has been away for 3 days. Now, I don't dare to recognize you anymore. You're being too serious. Back then, you were the leader of my military training. For the time being, we're old acquaintances. Don't say such polite words," Tang Jing said enthusiastically. Kai Guibin was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Tang Jing had soared too quickly, whether it was strength or status, he had far surpassed Kai Guibin. This was a height that many people would never be able to reach in their lifetime, so he naturally could not help but sigh with emotion. The cabin door slowly rose. Su Yingtian came to Tang Jing's side and sat down. He nodded at Wu and said to Tang Jing, "This mission is very serious. When the time comes, you will have to bear with it a little more." "Well said, everyone work together," Tang Jing said indifferently. Su Yingtian squeezed out a smile and said, "What do you think of these soldiers?" "The elites of the army. These are the elites that the National Security Bureau has nurtured for many years. This time, in order to fight against the demon race, I have brought out all of my trump cards." Su Yingtian said with some desolation. This time, the National Security Bureau had bet a lot. If they failed, it would not be much different from a complete wipeout. Tang Jing's expression was cold as he said, "You're not leaving any way out? The rise and fall of the country is everyone's responsibility. At this time, I don't dare to hide anything. Many of these people are pre-celestial martial artists. They are prepared to give the demon race a fatal blow." Su Yingtian said firmly. "What about the Dragon Group? Didn't they also send them to participate in the battle? They took off from another airport. Both sides will meet at sea." "Will the Dragon Group send elites?" Tang Jing asked worriedly. Su Yingtian coldly snorted and said, "The leader has given a death order. Xing Feng does not have the guts to deceive his superiors. He should send elites. His super soldiers are not any weaker than your subordinates." Su Yingtian sighed inwardly and said, "Who said it wasn't? Who would have thought that he would create a super soldier program and even succeed? Now, only his Dragon Group has super soldiers. It is simply mass-produced experts. It is too damn heaven-defying." Tang Jing bitterly smiled. It is indeed heaven-defying. Although this Xing Feng's heart is not right, he still has some ability. Today, Tang Jing's cultivation was high, but he also walked step by step. He was not like the super soldiers who rose from an ordinary soldier to a pre-celestial martial artist. However, I heard that the super soldiers also have side effects. Many people did not survive and many people died. But they were all suppressed by Xing Feng. He is deranged and does not care about human life. Tang Jing snorted. I am not that cold-hearted. So, even if he gave me the super soldier drug, I would not inject it into my subordinates. Tang Jing solemnly said, they are lucky to have an officer like you. The military aircraft rose into the sky and landed an hour later at an airport near the sea. Then, everyone boarded several helicopters and flew towards the sea with the roar of the propellers. Below their feet was the boundless sea, and they could no longer see the shadow of land. Suddenly, a huge object appeared in the sea ahead. Tang Jing could not help but exclaim, aircraft carrier. Su Yingtan laughed heartily and said, you have always been indifferent. I have never seen you so surprised before. Tang Jing smiled and pointed at the aircraft carrier below. I have only seen videos and photos on TV and the internet. Now that I see it with my own eyes, I can't help but feel excited. Tang Jing also had the same feelings as many people of his age. He had always paid close attention to the only aircraft carrier in the country. It could be said that the appearance of the aircraft carrier had raised the pride of the people. You are still a hot-blooded youth. Su Yingtian joked. Tang Jing rolled his eyes at him and said, I've always been one, all right. Then this time it will be as you wish. You will feast your eyes. You are saying that we are going to board the aircraft carrier? Of course. The moment he finished speaking, the helicopter had already landed on the aircraft carrier. A moment later, Tang Jing jumped down from the helicopter. When he stepped on the deck of the aircraft carrier, his heart could not help but beat fiercely. He took a deep breath. Apart from the smell of the sea, there was also the smell of iron and blood of the military. The deck was very busy. All kinds of military aircraft took off and landed in an orderly manner. There were also many soldiers who came and went in an endless stream. It was indeed a moving fortress on the sea. There was no doubt about its combat strength. It was no wonder that all the major countries were developing their own aircraft carriers. Don't just admire it. Let's go. Su Yingtian patted Tang Jing's shoulder. The few of them went to a meeting room together. The meeting room was already full. Most of them were in military uniforms. Their cheeks were chiseled like knives and axes, and they were extraordinarily mighty. However, Tang Jing saw some old acquaintances among them, Xing Feng and his subordinates. These people were dressed in casual clothes and had an arrogant air about them, which was completely different from the others' auras. However, there was no doubt that many of them were stronger than the other soldiers. There was no doubt about that. Moreover, Tang Jing also saw the remaining 3 of the 4 heavenly kings. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.